Hello and welcome to episode 2 or 3, if something, I don't know, of our Game of the Year podcasts. We're getting to the end, you guys. We're almost done. We have 4 categories left, and these are the ones these are the ones that maybe will be a little bit more, debated. Not necessarily this one. This one I think will go pretty easily, but the one after this one, it will be a humdinger for sure. So as always, I'm your host Kyle. Joining me as always, we have Adam.
You got a lot of shit to get through, man.
Adam doesn't have anything. Adam, he's not.
You got a lot of shit to get through.
He doesn't have anything to do.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Nothing for us. Also with us is Gus.
What's up, people?
We thought about substituting in Ghost Gus in place of Real Gus, but we changed our mind and we're just going to keep regular Gus. But we reserve the right to change our mind later. So we're going to start off this episode with the best game under $30. Now, this is we added a couple new categories this year. This is one of them, or probably the last of our new categories, because I think it was last year where basically we ended up with a Final 5 Game of the Year list that was all AAA $60 releases, and that's not necessarily fair. And I'm not saying that's going to happen this year because we haven't done that conversation yet, and there's probably stuff that ends up in that top 5 that's part of this list. But we're trying to get. We're trying to
talking about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm talking about
Doki Doki Literature
Doki
Club.
Doki Panic is it's one of the best games of all time.
It is.
It actually says the right name.
It does say
Okay.
Literature
Yes, it
Club,
does
yeah.
because I fucking changed it.
He went, and I fought going back and switching it to Doki Doki Panic. I wanted, but I left it the
Fuck
correct.
y'all. Killing the video game criticism industry.
So yes, so we're gonna talk about best game under 30. We want to highlight some things that maybe don't make it in a Game of the Year list, but we think are really good games. So I'm gonna run down the list of what's on our temporary list right now. We'll kind of open the floor if anyone wants to add anything that's not on this list, and then we'll start chopping away and having arguments. Thimbleweed Park, Flint Hook, Outlast 2, Little Nightmares, Everything, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Bucket Detective, PLAYERUNKNOWN'S Battlegrounds. I really don't like when games have to be all caps. It's really annoying. We got Everything again. So good that we put it on there twice.
Yeah, it is.
We got Static. We got What Remains of Edith Finch. We have West of Loathing. We have Sonic Mania. We have SteamWorld Dig 2. We have Cuphead. We have Stories Untold. We have Doki Doki Literature Club, aka Doki Doki Panic. We have HQ Trivia, and we have Night in the Woods. Now, do we need to cut HQ Trivia off of this list because it is a free-to-play game?
No, it's under $30.
Okay, I thought at some point we were talking
$30.
about getting rid of free-to-play games from this list, but okay.
No, Doki Doki is a free-to-play game too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Is there anything on this list, gentlemen, that needs to be on? Anything not on this list that needs to be on this list before we start chopping away at things?
Can't think of anything.
I can't think
Not
of
really.
anything either. I mean, the only other thing that briefly came into my mind was Snipper Clips, but I don't think Snipper Clips hangs. Maybe we've talked about it many times. Like, it's a really cool idea, but it's just not enough of it there. All right. I like doing this to Gus because he hasn't played most, if not all, of these games. Gus, why don't you put something up in the chopping block, and then we'll tell you whether or not we're actually going to chop it.
Okay, let's see. Well, obviously, Battlegrounds needs to stay because it's a 10.
10 out of 10.
So let's
Again, yeah, because 10 does not mean perfect. No matter what anyone on Twitter says.
Let's go with Bucket Detective.
Yeah, that gets cut. I mean, like, it's a fun, like, half an hour, 45-minute thing that is really fucking weird, but yeah, no, I would cut it off here. There's at least 5 other games on this list that I would keep. Also, so are we doing 3 with this one, or are we doing what is our quantity on this one?
I mean, we can play it by ear. I would go
All
towards 3. But if we seem to hit some type of snag or something like that, like look at when we went into last year with our best gaming moment or sequence, we intended to cut that down to 3. And we had to go to 5 because there's no way we could have gone any further in that list.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
We're tired, Joe.
I feel like 5 is appropriate considering that we're saying like this is a best game category. This is not, this isn't anything that's like, oh, it looks like this or it plays like this. This is a best category.
Sure.
So I think
Sure.
like I think we totally keep 4 runners up because there's enough goddamn games on here, and we know what one of them is. Like, we know.
Yep, Puyo Puyo Tetris definitely has to be.
Fuck yeah, it does.
So speaking of that, I think we should cut Puyo Puyo Tetris. I like Puyo Puyo Tetris. It's you get Puyo Puyo, which I mean, I played games like that before. I didn't think I knew that was called Puyo Puyo until this game. And obviously everybody on Earth has played Tetris. Like, I got this game because I thought, like, the story looked bizarre and would be interesting. And the story is terrible. Like, it's unbearable in this game. The cutscenes, the voice acting, like, everything about Puyo Puyo Tetris that I thought would be cool is, like, some crazy like anime bullshit. Like that's what I was expecting, and it is kind of that. It's just not interesting anime bullshit. Adam, are you back with us? Sorry. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
You're good.
Did you go into much of the story modes in Puyo Puyo Tetris? Because I found them to be unbearable.
I find it to be dumbass anime weeaboo bullshit.
Yeah. I don't know. Like
I think it's like stupid enough that I enjoy it.
See, I wanted it to be stupid enough that I would enjoy, and I found it being too much of that I couldn't bear it. Like if I was going to continue playing through the story mode, I would just probably have to skip all the cutscenes, which you can do. It's an option.
I mean, I also don't think that that's why you would go into that game, though, is the thing. Like, I've played a bunch of that game, and I've barely touched the story mode because I like playing that game multiplayer.
Yeah, it's a fun multiplayer.
The game was, like, that, to me, like, of the, like, I would say, like, of the 2 that, we said Snipper Clips is not going to make this list, but, like, I would say, like, of the 2, like, kind of, I guess, like, best like family friendly sort of multiplayer games that the Switch has. Like I would say this game is way better. It is really, really good. But I will take the L on this only because this game's been out since like 2011, 2012.
And some form of this has existed for quite a while, But yeah, I mean,
in America, but
yeah, I just don't.
I will not take that excuse when it comes to Yakuza. So just so we're clear on that. Yeah.
What? No, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Yakuza is a 2017 game, and I won't hear any other.
It is. It's fully 2017.
Adam, why don't you pull out your snipper clips and cut something?
The official cutting music.
I don't like Flint Hook.
You don't like, I don't understand why you didn't like Flint Hook. I really liked Flint Hook.
Like I don't like Flint Hook.
Did you ever go back and try it again after they added the ability to aim separately from the?
Yeah, still didn't like.
Because I know that bugged you. I really liked Flint Hook. I'm not gonna stake my claim on Flint Hook because I don't feel that strongly about it. But I definitely really enjoyed the roguelike-ness of that game, of the space pirate ships and the bosses that you had to fight and stuff like that. Like it was a good game, and I didn't have any control problems or anything like that like you did, Adam.
I don't know. Like I just playing that game, even kind of going back for the little bit that I did go back for, I was just like, it's a game. Like that was like as much as I could say about it.
It's a game.
Like, it exists. You know, it technically is around. It's happened. It happened to me, but I don't know. That game just never clicked with me in the right way. So, yeah.
Okay. Gus, you want to throw something out there that you think we can cut?
So I'm gonna go with Stories Untold because I feel like there's other games that will probably outlast this, and because I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, you could have just fucking said that. Like, you didn't need to go through the bullshit. We knew you didn't know what it was,
bullshit.
Gus.
I like his bullshit, though. His bullshit was really good.
We know that you didn't know what it was.
It's good
Gus.
Stuff. It's good stuff. That's good stuff right there.
10 out of 10 Gus, killing the games industry.
All right, so Stories Untold's cut. That was an easy one. Let's move on. Adam, do you want to give Stories Untold its piece before we chop it?
We're not going to talk about it. Okay, fuck me. All right.
No, keep that story fun.
The story needs to stay untold. That's the whole point. We got to honor the legacy.
Fuck y'all. Fuck y'all.
Okay.
Every year is the fuck you, Adam.
I will admit I actually don't know what Stories Untold is either. So you want to tell me what Stories Untold is?
No, I fucking don't.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
Okay.
Right now.
I feel like you should probably say something about it. It's on this list because I'm sure someone liked it somewhere in this group of 3 people.
Yeah, somebody did. But apparently we decided that's just getting cut before I even fucking said a word. You dick.
Is it one of the best 5 games under $30 that came out in 2017?
It might be.
Might be.
It might be, but I don't know. That game is really tough to convey what it's going for. So you had kind of brought up Pinstripe and the themes of that game. It has a very thematically similar thing, except they are straight up riffing on what's the show? Stranger Things. So like each episode of that game has like an intro that is very Stranger Things-esque. It is a very weird and interesting game. So it has like these 4 episodes, and the first episode it's a free thing out on I think like itch, and it is called The House Abandoned, and it is like a kind of old DOS style game where you're typing in commands, and you are kind of seeing it as you are playing it, and on your screen there is your character looking at a old DOS computer screen. And they are like in this kind of creepy room, and so the things that you are doing within that DOS game are impacting the things that are happening outside. So it'll be like, oh, there was a thunderclap, and then you hear a thunderclap, or oh, you cut the power and all of a sudden all the lights are out. And that's like a really like good intro to it. The second one is a kind of alien autopsy that you have to perform. Like you have like these like specific instructions of like, there's a box that's just kind of like in the middle of the room with you, and they'll be like, oh, well, I need you to perform this test. And so you have to go over and like read the manual of like how you do the test. And like meanwhile, like there's all this weird shit going on in the background, and kind of eventually goes into some really crazy things. And then the third episode, I think, is actually probably my favorite one because it is all code breaking stuff. So you have to be like, oh, hey, I need you to get a hold of this station. You're in this Arctic like call station, and you'll be like kind of talking. They'll be like, hey, I need you to contact this station. And so you have to like go over to your code book, which is like at a different station, and you have to like read the stuff that's in there and kind of like determine like, okay, this is the code that they're using. So in this case, this is the channel that it's on. So I should put this value into here and that value into this one. And then you kind of like go back to it. And it's then it like ends on a, I think that's actually kind of where the game falls apart. Is the last episode is it is revealed at the start of it that like this is all a hallucination. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. And you are a drunk driver. yeah, you were a drunk driver and you like got your sister killed, and like that could have been cool, but I also feel like as like these self-contained episodes, that stuff works a lot better. Like I don't need this like overarching like, oh well, there's an alcohol problem that your character is struggling with. And the only thing that's like kind of actually really cool about that is, as you are going through this like abandoned hospital, you are actually kind of like jumping back to those other episodes, and they will then like be recontextualized of like, here, enter in this code, and it's like you, and then it's like enter in this code, and it's like killed, and then it's like enter in this last one, and it's her, and that's kind of cool. That's like a neat way to do that. But I think that like I think that the twist is kind of the only thing that really takes away from it, because it's just so predictable. Like you always expect that with like these kinds of like horror games, of it being like, oh, it's you killed somebody, somebody's dead, and you're responsible for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I guess it's fucking cut already. But
I didn't touch anything. I know
you didn't.
You got Edward Scissorhands over there.
Yeah.
Just chopped it.
I don't know. Like, I think like it would probably make it for me as like maybe a number 11 on my own list, like just outside of it. But I don't know. Like, I don't know how strongly we feel about some of these. Like, there's a couple on here that I feel really strong about, and like if this thing was up to me, it might be like a number 6 or number 7.
Okay.
So I mean, like I
typed it back on the list. Let's look at some other ones, and let's see where we end up. Adam, why don't you toss something out there then?
I mean, I would cut SteamWorld Dig 2.
Okay.
For as much as I love that game, I love SteamWorld Dig and SteamWorld Dig 2. There's a lot more of that. And it is a really solid Metroidvania. It's like the first SteamWorld game, I think, was like a genuine surprise to me, because like you look at it and it's like, oh, it kind of looks like almost like a shitty, or like a knockoff version of like almost like a Terraria or
sure, yeah, because
like
it's just freeform, just dig a hole in the ground basically and uncover stuff, but then it progresses as you get better equipment and stuff like that, and I actually, it's funny is seeing SteamWorld Dig 2 come out. And then I was like, I never played SteamWorld Dig, and then I realized I have SteamWorld Dig on PS4 because it was a PlayStation Plus game at some point. So I started playing SteamWorld Dig about a week ago, and I was like, hey, this game's really good. So I can definitely see it, but yeah, I don't know if SteamWorld Dig 2 did enough different per se, other than, I mean, I know they added like new abilities and stuff like that, but to necessarily stand out compared to some of the other more original things on this list.
I mean, like I think it is a super refined version of that kind of a thing, because like it's also like it's a game that I think is like almost kind of deceiving, because you look at it and you're like, oh, it's like a Terraria thing, but it's actually a Metroidvania,
right?
And that is really great. Like I think that it has I mean, look, obviously it's a perfect game because I gave it a 10 out of 10, so that's what that means. However,
did you give it a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, he did.
Totally.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah. I think that game is like, I really loved SteamWorld Dig 1, and SteamWorld Dig 2 like is incredible, but I also feel like this it's tough, because like that game is super solid, but I also think that it is a game that is in a lot of ways, I don't know, like I don't know if you'd say like if it's missing or if it's lacking or what it is, but like compared to I would say maybe 8 or 9 other games on this list. In all honesty, I don't know that it hangs.
Okay, like it does what it does really well.
Yeah,
but it doesn't necessarily have like a standout thing.
It's probably the best Metroidvania game that I've played in years. It's really fucking good, and it's just a very well built game. But I think, given what else is on this list, and I think at this point I would also, like, talking this over, I would probably cut Stories Untold as well.
Okay.
Because like I think like those two are two like really good examples of like their respective kinds of games. But like I think that there are other ones on here, and goddamn, I'm really glad that I suggested that we do the 5 thing, because I think that it would be a fucking bloodbath if we had to go to 3.
It might be, yeah, because I'm gonna dig my heels in on one specific game, and being 5 means it'll probably actually make that list, where it would have been a lot harder if it was 3.
Yeah,
I think we can go ahead and cut a Thimbleweed Park. It's a really cool, like, old school adventure game. Like, the whole point of that game was it's like, hey, what if Ron Gilbert made a game like 30 years ago or 20 years, whatever, I don't know what the time period of that stuff is, and like we just now found it. Like, that's kind of what that game is, and it works really well, and it has kind of interesting, like, commentary about, like, what it is to be a adventure game, and kind of the whole, like, the game breaks the fourth wall multiple times, especially at the end of the game. Adam, did you ever play the Thimbleweed Park?
No, I didn't. I wanted to. Like a new Ron Gilbert adventure game. Just in my mind, it's like, man, I really fucking want that. But there's like, I don't know, like, is that game super long or not? Because I feel like
it's not particularly long. I mean, so it has an interesting thing where there's 2 different ways you can play it, and so like there's like a, I don't remember what they call it, but there's like a casual mode and a hardcore mode. And, like, it's the same basic game, but, like, they will add more significantly difficult puzzles to the hardcore mode. So, like, for example, there's, like, the whole point of the game is there's 4 different characters that you control, and those characters can interact with each other. And a lot of it's like, hey, I need to get a thing, and then I need to get that thing from this character over to this other character. So it's like, you will kind of be like, oh, I need to have a coin or something like that, but I can't find a coin. Oh, I bet one of the other characters can find a coin, and then I can get it that way. But when you're on hardcore mode, it would be like, oh, like, I need to get into this safe. On casual mode, you just open the safe. On hardcore mode, it's like, oh, I'm a drunk clown. I don't know what the combination of the safe is because I'm drunk and I have a bad memory. So you have to go piece together what the code is to the safe by doing this other. So it's like, you could go the casual route and probably get through it faster, but like if you want to see like the realness of it, you know, you would play the. But that game, like, at the end of it, like, fully becomes like everyone is self-aware that they are in an adventure game, and to like. And like what they do and how that game ends is all based around the fact that these characters now know that they're an adventure game and they need to do these things to basically save the thing. It's like it gets real bizarre and it gets real weird. But like I said, there's one game on here that I'm gonna stick my heels in the sand about, and it's not Thimbleweed Park. So I think we can go ahead and cut it. What else should we cut? How strongly do we feel about Sonic Mania? Sonic Mania is really cool, and it's a fun game.
It's really good.
But
it's really good. But there are definitely...
It's not going to hang.
There are definitely other ones on this list that I feel very strongly about. I feel similarly about Static. I think that is... Yeah, I think I said in maybe the last episode or one of the episodes before it, like, Static is maybe my favorite VR game. It is... really good. I don't know. But it's good. It's a super solid puzzle box VR game, and they make using a regular controller in VR work, which is something that doesn't happen. You know, a lot of places use the like Move or the wands. Static uses just a regular ass DualShock, and they make that shit work. So
cool.
It's cool.
I would say I just wanted to say about Sonic. I know we already cut it off the list there. Like, I really liked a lot of stuff that Sonic was doing, but man, if it doesn't have a lot of the stuff that I don't like about Sonic still in it, like there's that whole sequence in the chemical plant zone where the water's rising, and I died over and over again by getting squished and by drowning until I finally, because it's like that game kind of like when you have to do like super precise jumps. That game's not necessarily great for that. When you're kind of just flying through and bashing things and going fast, like that game's great. That's so I wish they would kind of fix some of that stuff, but I get that's also kind of what Sonic is kind of just having some of that janky, not necessarily precise jump stuff in it. So,
yeah. So Static.
Yeah, Static we can cut
off of here.
Okay.
I'd probably cut Outlast 2. Like, I think that game is an incredible horror game. Like, the stuff that it does psychologically with you, like, shifting between the hallucinations and the real world is awesome. Like, some of those scenes are... You don't even realize, like, until you are fucking in it, like, oh... Hey, I just was like crawling under this thing, and all of a sudden I'm in a locker in a school, and what the fuck just happened? Like that stuff is really. I would love to be able to just see what that game's levels look like from above, without like the ceilings or anything. I just want to see how that shit like works and what it looks like, with the lights turned on. But I still feel strongly about some other games on here. I think I knew when you said that you had one on here that you felt really strongly on. I knew what one it was, so I think I will say Little Nightmares. I think I'm the only person who played that, right? Like I don't think
I've seen some stuff for it, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. It's a really good Limbo esque sort of thing, and it goes some really fucking weird places. But you know, it's a good game. I think none of the stuff that was on here is necessarily a bad game. You know, This is stuff that we felt was like the best of our games that we played.
Yes,
so.
I have played games that were cheaper than $30 this year that did not even come into consideration of this list. So anything on this list is a good game, anyways.
I think I'm also maybe the only person who played everything. I think that is another case of, like, for me, that is, like, maybe just off of this list. Like, it's just, like, one off from it. That game's really chill, though. Like, that game is really fun to just put it on in the background and just let it go. Let it play itself. It's great.
It's a bizarre game. Bizarre.
It's so weird, and like, we'll talk a little bit more about it, I think, with the moment thing. But,
you know what? So I played through What Remains of Edith Finch this week, and I forgot that was the game with the shark tumbling down the hill from like. Was that PlayStation Experience really last year? Like that, and that's really early in the game, and I was like, "Oh God, yes, I remember that." I was like, "Oh, that's this game." Oh God, because I didn't really remember. Like, I knew what the idea of What Remains of Edith Finch was, and I remember seeing that trailer or whatever it was of that before. I want to say it was PlayStation Experience last year. Is that right? When they first showed that, like the shark tumbling down, and I was like, "Oh God, okay, that's what I'm in for." Which is kind of the same. Like I know there's like bizarre things like kind of like that in everything of just like, just anything and just kind of weird stuff happens. What I'm not saying What Remains of Edith Finch is off this list. No, it needs to be on this list. But I just need to point that out.
So say I'm about to dip the hands in the glass and we're gonna go at it.
But I completely forgot that's what that game was. The What Remains of Edith Finch was the shark flying down a hill game. That sequence is bizarre. So the two that stick out to me that's left on here are HQ Trivia and Doki Doki Panic. I'm sorry. I should just stop. It's a funny joke, but I should stop.
Especially since that joke was established on a recording.
On a recording that doesn't exist. Yeah. So I'll say I've played the top 4 on a remaining list here. I have not played the bottom 3, and I don't know how you feel about Night in the Woods, but I feel like I've been hearing enough buzz about Night in the Woods that I assumed that you were going to push for it to be on this list. I don't know about those other ones.
I honestly, to me, this list is PUBG, What Remains, West of Loathing, Doki Doki, and Night in the Woods.
Okay.
Like wow. I don't feel like, I think that Cuphead is really good. Like it is fun. But there are things that Doki Doki, that Night in the Woods do, that I don't know that I've seen done in games as successfully.
Okay.
Night in the Woods is, I think it might. I don't know if it was in the episode that we lost, but like Night in the Woods is this game that is about you're like a college student who drops out of college for reasons. You kind of eventually parse those reasons out, and they are kind of fucked up. There's some definite like reasons that May left school, and eventually, like at a certain point, turns itself into simultaneously a game that is very heavily about depression and psychological issues, and also about cosmic horror, and about like this town like having this kind of weird cult that is ritually sacrificing people to appease this like god that lives underneath the town, and I think that is such a weird combination, because like there was Oxenfree last year kind of did some of that cosmic horror stuff, and it was good, but like I don't feel like it had the character depth that Night in the Woods does. Doki Doki Literature Club does the same shit. So I'm gonna just spoil what Doki Doki Literature Club is, because I need to understand why I feel as strong about it. You have to know what that game is.
Sure. Because
it's not a game that you look at and you go like, oh, it's a visual novel that is.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a visual novel, right? It's like one of those. But
so no.
But it's
FMVs.
But it's not.
So what happens with the game? So it starts off, and it is a very typical visual novel story. You have your best friend, and she needs somebody to join her in her literature club, and she like eventually drags you into it, and you're like, oh, there's all these cute girls here, and what's going on here? That's really I gotta start trying to talk with these girls, and then they're like, well, hey, you know what you could do? We want to have like a big poetry competition, so you're gonna have to go make some poetry, and you go and like you have to like select like little words to use in your poems, and it all seems really fine. The reason that this is important is because the game starts off with a content warning. It says, hey, there are themes that this game deals with that if you maybe get uncomfortable by this stuff, maybe don't. And so at this point, it's a solid like 2 hours before you reach the point.
You're like, nothing about this is offensive or mildly offensive at all yet. It's a literature club with poetry. And then...
So what you kind of eventually start realizing is that one of your friends is kind of just... The friend who initially like dragged you into this thing is kind of very slowly pulling away. And you start to notice them kind of like receding into themselves. And so wait. So it you start noticing like they eventually they have like a breakdown, and like just you're like, man, like the fuck's going on here? Like, is this game just about mental health? And so like one morning you're like, oh man, I got to go over and check on my friend, and they've killed themselves, and they hung themselves. And so at this point, the game pops up and is like, you weren't supposed to see that. And then it restarts, except that character's not there. And then it becomes an actual cosmic horror game where you realize that one of the characters, the main sort of girl who's leading the club, is psychologically tormenting you to try to date her.
Oh, God.
And she does this by basically manipulating the personalities of the characters within the game. So one of the characters, for example, the character that I was like, you know, because you have like the little hangout times with them, became obsessive and would self-harm. And you would like go out and they would like have like, you know, you'd see like she's like cutting herself in there. But then the game would be like, oh, hold on. And it would just rewind itself. And it would go back to like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go out. And you'd be like, well, I guess I'm not going to go out there and look and see what she did. Or in some instances, you would just be like looking at the screen and you notice, oh, man, background looks... What's going on with the background? And it's very slow, but it's very slowly tilting itself at a Dutch angle. Just like so almost imperceptible that you don't notice it until it's like fucking full on. The thing that we kept waiting for when we were playing through it, me and my girlfriend, was like, eventually there's gonna be a fucking body in that closet. Like it's just gonna be in the background and nobody's gonna acknowledge it. It is a actual psychological horror game, and at the end game of it, it actually begins messing with the files of that game. So you kind of eventually reach this point where she's killed off these other characters, deleted them from the game. And they're like, yeah, it's just you and me. It's just you and me, just Monica. That's all that you need. It's just Monica. And you like leave the game and you load back up. She's like, I'm still here. I'm not leaving. It's just you and me. You can keep closing this thing as much as you want to. Like I'm always going to be here. And there is like maybe an hour of dialogue that she has of just like, yeah, so I don't know, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? And you're in this void realm where it's just the classroom and like stars in the background. And you're like, oh man, like, this is really fucking weird. And she's like, yeah, I mean, like, you know, if you want, you're like you can look, I got rid of them. If you go into the file directory for this game, you see the only character that's in there is me. And it's like very subtly going, hey, just go in there and delete her file and see what happens. And you do. And that's a part of the game, is going into the files of this game to delete her character profile.
Jeez.
And then it restarts itself again. And like, she's not there, but everybody else is. And then they're like, oh yeah, this is really great. We got this really good friendship thing going on. And then your initial friend comes back and is like, yeah, but hey, fuck them. It's just going to be you and me. And then eventually, like, Monica comes back. She's like, nope. This was all a mistake. I'm deleting all of this forever. Fuck this. The literature club was a mistake. There is nothing that I have played this year or maybe ever that is quite that insane. I respect that level of insane. Because it is... The thing about VNs that is always so frustrating, and where like some games get it like this, or I always throw out John Cena's Sexy High School Adventure, which is a really fun, like very self-aware, like all of the characters are John Cena, but they have like MS Paint clothes on, and so there's like Dr. John Cena, or there's Satan John Cena. A lot of VNs don't get how ridiculous and stupid their premises are. And for a game to be like, yeah, this is a really dumb thing, and we're going to go in a way that has never been done with it before in like a very meaningfully like different kind of way to play a game. There's something about that when I look at it, I go, fuck, man, that is mind-blowing. And the only thing, and this is maybe a thing that you could put up for debate, the only thing that maybe ruins it is the fact that there's a content warning. Because like if there wasn't a content warning, you wouldn't know that this stuff is there. Like it's
Yeah.
really cool. I think that they included it because there's obviously people who have emotional triggers to that sort of stuff, and that can have some really bad effects on them. And I'm really glad that they did it. Like they almost ruined a big twist of their game by not being dickheads, and you know, like they
Right,
include
yeah.
this-
Otherwise, that moment where everything turns would have been even that more shocking because you would not have expected it at all.
Yeah, I just, man, that is a game that I tend not to, I tend to have like a couple of streamers that I watch, but I'm never watching anything like any game in particular. Like I'm not that kind of person to watch, but anytime that there's like, hey, there's somebody that like I kind of know or I'm kind of familiar with, they're playing Doki Doki, I gotta fucking see this because I need to know how they react to that thing. Because I need to see what happens with it. Like I was watching somebody yesterday, and they're like, "Well, this game just got really fucking weird." Like you know, it's that sort of reaction, and I think that it's more than a moment because it's so predominant through the game. You get like I said, they do like so many weird things. Of like, at one point, their character model just has human eyes. Just like Steve Buscemi eyes, but it's just like for just a second, just enough to make you go, "Ooh, what the fuck was that?" And then it's like, "Oh yeah, no, everything's normal, everything's fine, it's all good, it's great." It's man, that game is actually my favorite horror game of this year, and in a year that has had a lot of really good horror games, that a VN is able to do that. Fuck, dude. Okay. Fuck. So like I like HQ Trivia. I think HQ Trivia is really good, but I don't think that it hangs
right
at this point. You know,
Okay.
I think that's the easy cut.
Yeah, I mean, so Cuphead is a really good game, and I mean, a lot of it comes from the design. Like when we talked about that for best looking game, just like how beautiful, interesting in the world, and like the bosses and how the bosses transform while you were playing those levels to different forms, and how you have to be like 100% precise to be able to survive those things. It's really fun. I don't like, and a lot of people said this, I don't like those like in between like runner levels that you have to do to get coins to upgrade things or buy new guns and stuff like that. Like those are like they probably felt like they needed to add that to punch up the length of the game or to provide a little bit of variety or something like that, but I think it maybe would have been better without that.
I agree. Like those levels I think are the thing that I highlighted in the review. Are like that's a big thing that takes away from it, and because that's so core to playing that game.
Yeah, because that's how you get the upgrades.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to do every single one of those. Like I think if it was just a big boss rush like they were first planning on doing, I think it would have been a better game, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I say cut Cuphead for as fucking great as that game is. I say cut it. But so you said you were digging in here on West of Loathing.
I
want to know why you're digging in. I'd say like yeah, we leave it on here, but I want to know what your reasoning is.
I love that game. That game is one of the funniest, if not the funniest game that I have ever played. And the fact that they put that in a game that is all stick figures, that is all text, no dialogue whatsoever, and they managed to pull off so much funny, dumb moments in that game it's great. It's great. Like it's not a particularly like it's a good solid like gameplay and whatnot. It's not particularly difficult or anything like that, but the gameplay's solid. It's it's turn-based RPG stuff. It's just about that world and just kind of the stuff that you do. Like, oh God, like there is a port in that game where you go to a ghost town, and it's a ghost town, but it's an actual town run by ghosts. And for some reason, the ghost town is really steeped in everything has to go by the numbers. So you have to you have to get a pencil to fill out a form so that you can ask for a requisition of materials to borrow from them. But then you need to get but then you go up to the forum to try to borrow a pencil, and sorry, you need to have a visitor's pass. And so you have to, like, run around doing all this, like, minute details of these ghosts, and it's like, it's the most bizarre thing in the world. Like, why should and then that goes farther on beyond things. Like, I mean, the best part of those games, the dumbest, absolute dumbest things, is the dialogue based around the spittoons. And that is going to come up in best moments, because there's a variety of spittoons in the game that... It's a spittoon, right? People are spitting in them tar and chew and stuff like that. And every single spittoon, it lets you reach your hand into and search around to try to find something. And the whole time, the game yells at you and makes fun of you for doing that, because you're a terrible human being and you're reaching your hand into this terrible thing. What is wrong with you? And, like, there's so many moments like that. And again, it's all just through text. And it's done so well and almost always lands. I mean, the game is about the cows came home, and the cows coming home is a literal sense of murderous cows from hell are fighting back against the people of this West because they were running ranches and doing slaughterhouses and stuff like that. And so the cows are literally killing people. But there's also a necromancer. No, go ahead.
Is this game like what kind of, like, actual gameplay are we talking here? Is it just like a walk
RPG.
Around, point and click thing?
Yeah, it's a walk around, like, point and click, talk to people.
Oh, okay.
But it's a full on turn based RPG. So you're getting armor, you're getting weapons, you have 3 different classes that you can pick from. You have a, like, sidekick character. So you have your character, and then you have a sidekick character that you pick with you that has their own special abilities, that also has their own storyline through it. And the whole game is just... It's just bizarre, and you run, like, it's got, like, a giant overworld map, and every location you go to has some kind of interesting thing. There's also some weird, like, ancient civilization that's in here that has super high-tech stuff that you can go down and investigate. There's a whole line of, like, necromancers reviving skeletons and stuff like that you can stop. Like, it just kind of keeps going and keeps going. The only thing that it falters is that it doesn't really stick the landing. Like, you kind of get to the, like, it's all sectioned off, where it's like the first section is you're going through all this area, and if I remember right, the bridge is out, or maybe there's a bridge is out and you need to help rebuild the bridge. The other one is there was a rock fall and you have to help clear out the rocks with dynamite. And so, like, this first section you have to do that to kind of progress in the story, but there's all these side things to do. And the second area, it's the same thing. There's tons of side stories, but you need to complete the main quest to get to the third. Then when you get to the third one, it's like it completes in like 20 minutes. And that's the only thing that really stops it from being like a complete fantastic game. But it's such a fun experience to kind of just poke around at every little thing in that game. Like I was talking about in probably one of our lost episodes, that there's like every little piece of flavor text, like the text that's on the items that you pick up, like you get bonuses. There's a setting in the game for colorblind mode. Even though it's a black and white game with no color, you can turn colorblind mode on. And when you highlight over
the model of accessibility,
and when you hover over the colorblind mode, the flavor text that pops up says just in case, you just might need to have that. You unlock a thing called silly walking, and if you turn silly walking on, the character, rather than just walking on 2 feet like normal, will crab walk, will jump around, do cartwheels. Like every time he moves, he'll just do something different.
Silly walks,
and it's completely bizarre. And there's so many just little things in that, like diving in and kind of reading everything is kind of great. And it's a fun game to play because it's basically like you guys all played the Stick of Truth. It's basically the combat from Stick of Truth. It is, you have your character, you have a side character who's like support, and then you have enemies and they're in rows. So like you have certain attacks that will hit everyone in a row, or certain attacks that will hit everyone in a column or whatever, and you have to like take out things in the first row or the first column before you can attack people in the second column, things like that. Like the combat doesn't get too complicated or difficult or anything like that, but it's fun. But that's not why you're coming to the game. The game to come because it's just funny, and it's constantly just doing bizarre things.
That's cool. That's always like this year there wasn't like a ton of games that were like laugh out loud funny. So like that's cool that like something's able to do comedy decently, especially when like South Park sounds like it maybe fell flat in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I haven't finished South Park, but
I haven't played it, but yeah, from everything I heard, it seems like it's fine, but it's nothing special.
Yeah.
And it's missing, like, what people loved about that first South Park game was kind of the crazy, bizarre things that you do, like when you shrink down to the tiny size, and then you have to fight. I think it's you fight your father's balls, if I remember right, or they're coming in.
No, the balls are like an environmental hazard.
Oh, it's an environmental hazard while you're fighting other things.
Yeah, you're fighting the underpants gnomes.
Oh, right, you're fighting underpants. Yeah, like there was some crazy stuff in that. You know, the like the Nazi Hitler babies, like things like that. Like nothing. Doesn't sound like there's anything quite like that in the Fractured But Whole. And there's nothing like West of Loathing isn't that, like, it's not doing like crazy over the top like inappropriate humor. It's just kind of goofy and silly, and I really appreciated it. The only one we haven't really talked about is What Remains of Edith Finch, which is...
Well, there's another one we haven't talked about, but I feel like we know.
We've talked. I mean, we've talked about it in time. What Remains of Edith Finch? Like, I don't think we've really talked. Like, you talked about in, I think, again, one of our last episodes about kind of what that game is. It's basically it's a girl going through the house of her family, the Finch house, and it's this bizarre like maybe started out as a fairly normal house, and then they just built all kinds of crazy additions and all this, like, I don't think it's up to code, basically, is what I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure that they need to get some inspectors in there.
Yeah. But basically she goes to the house, and there's a curse on the family, or they think that there's a curse where everyone dies. And she's reading through the diaries of the members of her family, and they basically almost always are about how that person died and what their life was and what crazy thing happened. And every single event is completely different. Basically it's a series of vignettes, and everyone is different. Like, there's a sequence where a little girl crawls out her window, turns into a cat chases down a bird, then she becomes a shark, then she becomes some kind of like octopus monster. Like, it just keeps going. It just gets bizarre. And then there's parts where, it's just a kid and he likes to swing, and he's going to try to do that thing that all kids did when they were kids, and they're going to try to swing all the way around all the way around the top, do the full 360 degrees, and then he does it, and then he goes flying off to his death. And it's just a bizarre series of events. And I don't think necessarily all of the sequences land or do particularly well, but the ones that do are awesome.
The ones that do are incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I put the cannery.
Yep, that's the one. I mean, that is the one of those games.
Yeah, like, that's definitely the standout. But I also think, like, I think in that last episode,
the bathtub one, is pretty
bathtub
fantastic.
One. I like the swing one.
Yeah,
it's super short. It's like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but that one's really good. The cat one. That game is just really, I think I've said it before. Well, I know I've said it before. I think it's the best one of those kinds of games, like that walking simulator sort of thing. Only because and it was like, a problem that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture had, where it was like, I'm just kind of like looking at this stuff. Like, I'm not actively involved with what's going on in this world. I'm just kind of seeing it. And Edith Finch, like, just straight up is like, you are going to be involved with this stuff.
Yep.
Like, you have actions to perform. It's nothing super complex except for maybe the cannery. And that one is just, like, on another level entirely. But it's all super simple, but it involves you in that world in a way that so few of those kinds of games have been able to do. And I think it's really something else for it, like, it's so good and unique in a space that is honestly kind of overcrowded in a lot of instances. There's a lot of those types of games, and a lot of times they just don't stick. And here it's completely all the way through. Those highs are so high in that game. It's really good. I mean, the only thing I'll say is that having just recently played it,
I don't think it sticks the landing very well. I think that it ends intentionally, like the way that I mean, they were very clearly going for something, but it ends up feeling a little bit unfulfilling because like they keep hinting that there's this like great mystery of like what's going on, what is the curse, like why did they decide to leave, what happened to the grandma, all that stuff, and then it's like they purposefully cut you off in the middle of the story that you were reading about what was going on, and your mom takes you and drags you away, and it's like, no, I want to know what was going on. Like, don't do that to me. And that was frustrating. But I think, like I said, I think that was intentional. But I kind of wish that they had gone all the way with that and actually let me know what was going on.
Yeah.
But that all being said, I think this category has a clear winner.
Yeah, it does. It does. Man, what?
It's almost not fair.
It's not. It's really not. Like when we were first coming up with the list, because I played this game a bit before you played it, Kyle.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it's weird that this game is like capturing me in a decent way, because those games just tend not to. But
we're talking about PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds, by the way. If you
of course we are. Of course we are. But like the fact that it is this really well built, really precise military shooter that has, like honestly, just a real sense of pick up and play. Like you can kind of just get into it. It takes a really long time to master that stuff. Like you don't. Like I still feel like every so often I'm like, okay, am I gonna actually hit this guy? Am I going to lose it to bullet drop? What's going to happen with it? Oh, is it worth it? I had a moment like that last night because I'm playing on the Xbox. And I was like, man, okay, I could just... If I just walk up a little bit closer, there's a really good chance that this guy's going to see me. But if I try to shoot him, he's definitely going to know that I'm here. So... let's try it. And you have like this experimentation thing of like, okay, well, I'm dead now. Go again. You know, like there is something I think admirable about how that game is built and how that game works just as being a very fast, like just go, just do it, just try it. And you go through so many different styles of experimentation to the point eventually where it's like, okay, I think I'm getting this, and then it becomes the chase, because the chase to the chicken dinner. I mean, I still haven't gotten a solo one,
No.
And I don't know when that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say once we got our duo chicken dinner, I definitely fell off it and kind of went toward to play other things, and kind of just recently started getting back into it to check out the new map that they put out. And the vaulting and all that stuff, like, and that new map is really good, and it is
it is,
and is completely different than what is it? It's Erangel is the original one, and Miramar's the new one. Am I remember?
Miramar is the new one. Yeah, Miramar's the new one.
And it's completely different because a lot of Erangel is get on your belly, crawl through the bush, hang out in a bush, blah blah blah. And Miramar is like, yeah, it's all desert, so if you're crawling on your belly, you're just a black speck on the desert, and someone's going to pick you off from 100 meters away anyways. So, like, it completely changes that game to a lot more about range and paying attention to where people are. It's really good. It's really good. I mean, it definitely has its problems. I mean, we talked about the loot boxes and the hacking and all that stuff. It's not affecting our game a ton, per se.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't run great.
Yeah, like I was thinking about this today, based off of the discourse. I really think that game it falls in for me in like and this is they're very different games, right? Like Deadly Premonition, to me, that is a perfect game.
I know. I can see where you're going with that.
So fucking broken. That game is inherently fucked up in so many fundamental ways, but that game's perfect to me. Or I guess a more a closer comparison would be Stalker. Stalker's a bad game. Like, that game has legitimately fucking issues. There are bad things about that game. But that game's incredible. There's like almost nothing else like Stalker. Or more recently, I was playing Far Cry 2. Like, Far Cry 2 is fucking flawed. It's got some fundamental issues with it. But I still think that, for me, that game is like it is the thing that I love. It is the thing that impacts me. Playing a game like this impacted me to the point where I was like, man, that fucking Xbox version looks like real dog shit. But hey, it comes with it for free, so that makes it a smart decision, right? That makes it a really smart thing to do, yeah? And it was like, no, it absolutely was not a smart decision. But you know what? I played that game last night, and I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
I have a good time. I feel like any time that I'm playing that game, which is rare with multiplayer games. Like Destiny 2 is like a game that like I can have fun with under the right conditions in Crucible. Overwatch is definitely become that thing where I can have fun with it in the right conditions at this point because of the stuff that's gone on with that game. But for me, PlayerUnknown's is just this game where it's like, okay, I'm going to load it up and I'm just going to see what happens. And I'm probably not going to get a chicken dinner on this one, but I'm going to have a lot of fun going through and just learning that game's mechanics. And it's such a raw like experience of combating 99 other players.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing quite like that. It's so good.
Yeah, it's good. It's a real good game. And it's won some other categories in here, and I think yeah, when you talk about games under $30, like I said, it's almost kind of cheating that this game is under $30. But hey,
yeah,
we'd laid out that category before Battlegrounds was a thing. So
we set that rule up, and god damn it knocked it down.
Yep. So that's what it is. So yeah, so the winner for the best game under $30, 10 out of 10, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, as Gus has written down here. The runners-up, in no particular order, is What Remains of Edith Finch, West of Loathing, Doki Doki Literature Club, and Night in the Woods.
You know, I just realized that we didn't even include Fortnite Battle Royale as even like a contender.
Yep, you're right, we did.
Because it's not a good game.
You're right, we did.
We
did not.
We did.
We
did that intentionally.
The only thing that Fortnite does is that maybe it runs a little bit better than PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
I think the spectator mode is better,
but that's about it. Like playing, shooting, yeah.
Yeah, there's no comparison. That game was not built for the thing that they're doing with the Battle Royale mode.
They're working on that though.
They're changing the entire shooting specifically for that mode.
Yep.
Because they're like, hey, we had millions of people play this shit. Let's go.
I mean, hey,
get on.
Like a free-to-play Battle Royale game, I mean, that's good. Like that's.
I respect your hustle.
That's how you do it.
I like your game, but I respect your hustle.
Like you're not gonna beat PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds by doing that type of thing and also charging $30 for it. So coming out being free to play is a real good way to combat a game that is A, not available on consoles, and B, like actual cost money versus cost free. Like we got Gus to play Fortnite Battle Royale, for goodness sakes. I mean, what are you gonna do?
To be fair, he didn't show up that one night, and that's the night that we got our chicken dinner. So I mean, you take the good and the bad.
That's right. That was that night, wasn't it? Yeah, where we played like 2 or 3 matches of Fortnite, and we were like, this is crap. Let's go play Battlegrounds, and then we got our chicken dinner.
Just cleared the way for our chicken dinner.
So yeah, thanks, Gus. Thank you. It's all to you.
I set it up.
All to you.
Wouldn't have been possible without you, man.
All right. So yeah, that's that. Do we want to cut it, or do we want to just go right into the next one?
Up to y'all.
We're at an hour.
Dude.
It's up to y'all's.
I'm just thinking, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
Okay.
So we got a big fucking thing here right in front, and it's not going to be any better at any other point.
I mean, I would say we probably maybe just to if we want to actually legitimately get this done today, we probably need to be a little bit briefer with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But
I think there's going to be, because a lot of these are shit that we're going to cut from multiple games.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, multiple moments from a single game.
From the same game. Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like there's going to be stuff that we're going to cut, and there's definitely some stuff on here that I'm like, okay, like that might be a cool thing to talk about, but like maybe that doesn't live here, you know.
Yeah.
So.
All
right. Y'all just tell me what to cut, and I will be quick.
You gotta have your opinion in here with us as well. Don't shake your head at me. Shake your head.
I literally played like 4 games this year.
What's this flash and reverse flash shit? Cut it.
Hold on. We got to intro it. Hold on. Hold on. It's not the moment. If we were gonna pick a moment from Injustice, which I doubt we would, that's not the moment from Injustice, anyways. Although that's a cool part.
That's the moment on the list.
No, there's another moment on there. It's just a little bit farther down.
Is there?
Okay. Yeah, the Superman ending.
It's a big fucking list that we got.
It's a really big list. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're gonna move on now to this is so guys, this is the most ridiculous list here. This is directly related to the fact that we started this list on like January 1st or whatever, and have been building on it since then. Because oh my god, we got best gaming moment or sequence, and there's what is there, like 40 things on here?
I don't want to count them.
There's a lot. There's a lot of things on here. Now we're going to do this like we did last year. We're going to get this down to a winner with 4 runners up. I think even that's going to be kind of difficult. We're going to limit it to 1 thing per game. So for example, there's like right at the top of the bat, there's 2 things from Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm not saying either one's going to make the list, but definitely not both of them are going to make the list. So we'll probably start going through the list that way, cutting down the things just from what the best moment or sequence from a particular game. So best gaming moment or sequence, right? We're either talking about a particular specific small moment that was really cool, or like an extended sequence, like a level of a game, or like a particular act or something like that that was particularly interesting. It's malleable. We can kind of do it as we go. So let's go down the list. Now, we didn't really group games together or anything like that because we added things as we were experiencing them. But here we go. Getting the Master Sword from Breath of the Wild. Eventide Island from Breath of the Wild. The Circus, which is Romeo's and Juliet's from Nier Automata. We have First Contact from Elite Dangerous. The Machine in Mr. Shifty. The Blood Moon Chase, Outlast 2. Majima's Introduction in Yakuza 0. It's a good one. The Final Feast in Little Nightmares. Getting the Chicken Dinner, as we just discussed. We got the Chicken Dinner thanks to Gus. Breaking the Glass in Prey. Descending into the Golden Gate in Everything. The Flash, Reverse Flash Chase in Injustice 2. Learning how healing item works from Jack in Resident Evil 7. The Happy Birthday part sequences in Resident Evil 7. The Superman ending in Injustice 2. Press kick and punch to throw your son into a volcano in Tekken 7.
Yeah.
Devolver Digital's quote-unquote press conference. Let's see. Discovering the difference between Route C and Route D in Nier Automata. Route E and sacrificing your save in Nier Automata. We should also point out that this is going to be a lot of spoilers in this category. A whole lot of spoilers. Because that is a spoiler. Just the title of that moment. Pascal's Moment of Tragedy in Nier Automata. The Cannery from What Remains of Edith Finch. The Twist in the Credits from Death Squared. Taking down a Thunderjaw in Horizon Zero Dawn. Investigating the Spittoon in West of Loathing. The Chemical Plant Zone boss in Sonic Mania. The Destiny 1 recap in Destiny 2. The new tower reveal in Destiny 2. The raid in Destiny 2. The Vectron in SteamWorld Dig 2. The first case in Danganronpa V3. Bruise's Arc in Shadow of War. Act 3 in Shadow of War. That's Middle-earth Shadow of War, of course. We have the New Donk City Festival in Super Mario Odyssey. We have Bowser's Rampage in Super Mario Odyssey. We have the Deep Woods in Super Mario Odyssey. We have the Final Kingdom in Super Mario Odyssey. We have getting that achievement in Wolfenstein 2. I missed that in Wolfenstein 2. I didn't get that achievement. I had to go back and see what that achievement was, and I was sad that I didn't get that achievement.
Kyle, we're gonna have to talk about you as a person. I think we're gonna have to issue out some personal judgment.
I'm a method actor. I'm just gonna say that I'm a method actor. I was in there to do my part. We have.
I will also say like that is also about that scene, but yes, yeah, we'll come back to it.
Everything after Roswell to going back to the U-boat in Wolfenstein 2, the Jimmy Carver show in Wolfenstein 2, and reclaiming the U-boat in Wolfenstein 2. We have the twist, which we just talked about the twist in Doki Doki Literature Club. And then we have the last 3 are from Assassin's Creed Origins. We have Revealing the Scarab, Defending Pompeii. That's not how you spell Pompeii. And Odor Most
That's
Foul.
how it's spelled in the game.
Is it?
That's how
okay.
It's spelled in the game. It's not the town. It's a character.
Oh, okay. I was like,
yeah, no.
I was like, also like, why is he in Pompeii? It's like that seems like a bizarre thing from Assassin's Creed Origins.
Pompeii is like later in that, because I was like, wait a minute, is he not? No, it's not. It's totally not. It is not Pompeii. It's not
right.
That
It's not. He doesn't.
It is
he
a
doesn't.
Character.
He doesn't save
Pompeii.
people from a volcano wiping out a town. Okay, got it.
God, I was hoping that was the thing.
Okay.
Before
we start.
Yes, guys.
Are we recording?
Yes, we're still recording. Yes, we're still.
Okay,
recording.
just want to double check that.
That's you're not. It's fine. I appreciate that you're stepping up on that.
Because this is gonna take a while, probably.
Yep.
So how we did this last year, I think, is we went through and we kind of narrowed everything down to a single game or to a single moment from every game, and I think that's probably what we have to do here.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest first cut. So let's look right at the top: Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, getting the Master Sword, and Eventide Island. Getting the Master Sword's cool and all, but the entire sequence of Eventide Island is amazing. Like
Eventide is I love the Master Sword moment because like I think we talked about it in the episode proper where we were talking about this game, but it's like you have to go out and you have to earn it, right?
Yep.
Like you can't you don't just get this thing handed to you, you have to earn it, and that's a really cool thing.
And you can't even cheat it. Like you can't like, oh, I'm gonna put all these buffs that gives me more hearts or anything like that. You have to go do the shrines to get enough health to be able to pull the Master Sword out without dying. Like it's cool. But dropping you on an island and saying, yep, you don't got any of your stuff, you have to go fight all these enemies, like including a Hinox, the big ogre looking things.
Yeah,
like
Hinox, yeah.
Like that's cool. Like that's super cool that they do that to you. They make you go back to using like a stick and the crappiest little claymore that you can find to fight these goblins and whatnot. By the time I got to it,
no nothing.
Yeah. By the time I got to it, it was like I did have all of my dungeon powers, so that did help me a little bit, like using the lightning attack thing that you get from what's the
Urbosa?
Yeah, Urbosa. Like that certainly helped, especially beating the Hinox, but it's a really cool sequence in a game and really unexpected, like unlike anything else in that game. Although it does sound like that the Master Quest or whatever thing that they put in the first DLC is kind of like that. But I can't imagine it being that good.
But it's not. So like the start of that thing is like you get a weapon that is a one-hit kill, but you can only take one hit of damage. It's more frustrating than anything else because it's like, oh, I was maybe a little bit too close to this barrel, and I guess Link's hair has got singed, so that's me dead. That's Link. He got fucked up because he had a little bit of a puff of smoke near him, and he's fucking dead. I don't think it's as good as Eventide, because like Eventide is a microcosm of kind of like the entire game of like gathering supplies, using these powers to. I did it. I think maybe after I had like maybe one of the abilities, and the first one that I got, I want to think was like, I think it might have been Mifa's thing.
Sure, the one that revives you.
Yeah, so like that helped, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you have to do,
that whole
and you have to
thing
do,
is so good.
you have to, like, you have to do everything. You have to pick up ingredients and cook and like get your attack up and heal. Like you have to do all of that stuff. Yeah. It's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of just like a shorter version of the progression of that whole game, which is cool. Okay, so we got that cut down. Next one I see that's 2 games would be Resident Evil 7, which is learning how healing items work from Jack, which is just an awesome moment.
It's so good.
Where he catches you, and then he cuts your leg off, and then he shows you how to put it back together by sprinkling magic water. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
No, because all that he just like cuts off your leg, and he's just like, clunk. Here's the healing potion. Bye, and he just walks the fuck off.
Oh right, yeah. He just and you do it.
And so you have to like crawl yourself over, and the first thing that guy thinks to do is like, hey, let me take my foot, and let me take this stump that I've got, and let me pour some of this magic water on it. And he's like, oh, holy shit, that works.
I mean, hey, if his hand is working and it's just stapled together, like, I could understand that thought process. That his arm is that he got his arm chopped off and just stapled back together and it was working fine. I'm having a hard time differentiating between the Happy Birthday Part 1 and Part 2.
Part 1 is when you find the videotape.
Oh, the videotape, and then Part 2 is when you're actually doing it for yourself. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, when you actually do it. So, like, you don't have to find the videotape in order to do that section of the game. Like, if you didn't find the videotape, you just have to go through it like they do in the videotape of, like, okay, I went over here and I, like, got my arm scrawled on. Like, the framing of that scene is, like, you find a videotape, maybe, like, a third of the way through the game that is Clancy being held hostage in this, like, basically escape room. And you kind of eventually just see, like, Clancy, like, going through this entire process. He's getting, like, the shit beat out of him. Like, he gets his arm cut up by a creepy-ass clown thing.
That part was rough.
Yeah. And then, like, at the end of it, he gets blown up. And so, like, if you found the video, though, you actually know the steps to avoid so that you don't get blown up. And the game acknowledges that, where, like, you go through the whole thing the first time as Clancy and he gets killed. You come back, and as long as you, like, remember, oh, okay, I just got to put this, in here, and then I can go like the thing that I need to. The game, you just hear Lucas go, shit, just in the background, and then he just throws a thing of dynamite into the room, just like, no, you're not getting out of this. Like, you're getting blown up, and so then you have to, like, rush over and tear down a wall so you throw the dynamite through. That thing is so cool because it feels like you're cheating, which is really weird to say, but it feels like you knowing how to get through that puzzle before your character actually, before Ethan gets to that puzzle.
Right. Well, I mean,
it feels like,
yeah. I mean, Ethan saw the tape. It's, you know, yeah. He saw it being solved, but yeah, it's cool. So I mean, that's probably the part that sticks out from Resident Evil 7, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I think of the two of them, like, I love that healing. I love that whole healing thing. I think that is hilarious. I think it is, like, legitimately just this. It is very tonally thematic with the rest of the game. Like, it fits what that game is going for in its kind of cheesy B horror vibe that it's got going. But the Happy Birthday thing, I think, like, that entire sequence, but both parts of it really define Lucas as the villain that he is.
Right.
Like, I think Jack Baker gets the advantage of, he's the big guy, he's the nemesis character, the Mr. X, the tyrant, you know, he's stalking you through the world. But Lucas is always kind of, like, in the background, and it's when you go through that thing you kind of realize, like, oh shit, like, this guy's not fucking around. Like, he will kill me in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And he's insane in an entirely different way.
Yeah, okay. So the next cut that we're going to do here is with Injustice 2. And I don't know if necessarily either of these stay on the list, but we at least make this cut. So did you guys play Injustice 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't.
Did you go back and see both endings of the game after the story?
No, I I chose the Batman ending.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
that's, you know, that's like the good, like the canonical ending probably. The Superman ending, you should go watch it because it is terrifying. So the whole point is Batman and Superman are at odds with each other, what to do, and so the end of the game you get to pick which one you want to play, and then when you beat it, then that's the character that wins. And the Batman's a pretty standard ending. You know, they put Kal-El in the solar prison or whatever, so he can't get out. He doesn't have his powers, whatever. The Superman ending is Superman straight up becomes the dictator that like he kind of like was in this like alternate reality. The really messed up thing is that he uses Brainiac's like mind control technology and enslaves Batman. And so the end of that game is Supergirl is in that, and she had sided with Batman because she didn't believe in killing, and so Superman has her in the prison. And Batman comes up with a kind of like a technological bat suit that looks like Brainiac's thing, has like the purple outline that Brainiac had, and is just totally being mind controlled by Superman. And it's super messed up, and it's super dark, and it's just like, oh my god, this is an awful. Like, I want to see that version of the canonical be like like Injustice 3 go off of that version of this game, which I probably won't, but it's super messed up, and it's super cool. Like I said, I don't necessarily know if either of these, and I'm okay cutting both of these right now if we want to. But that by far is the thing that stuck with me. But you do have to kind of go back, unless you happen to be the type of person that kind of goes for the dark, bad endings the first time through. You kind of have to go back through and play it again to see that, and it is by far the most interesting. That the Flash, Reverse Flash chase is awesome. Seeing these two guys, you know, dipping out through everything, like all this, just it's a really cool sequence. But no, that Superman ending is awesome. But I'm okay if we cut both of these. They're not going to hang in this list.
Yeah, they're probably not going to hang. I mean, it's always great to see Reverse Flash coming in and messing with the Flash. Like, I don't know. It's always great to see the red and the yellow.
Yeah.
Zipping and yeah, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's nothing really that's going to stand out because I mean we've seen that before in TV and especially in the comics.
Yeah, I would say probably mean like because you watch the Flash TV show, it probably means more to you than it does to me. But Reverse Flash is cool.
Season 1 of the Flash is really good, guys. If you haven't seen it,
I got enough stuff to watch. All right, going farther down the list here, Nier Automata. All right, here we go, Adam. Let's do this.
It's Pascal, right? Like it's Pascal.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Really?
I don't think so.
Really?
I think it's the sacrifice in your save. I think it's the end credit stuff. Like that's like that stuff. Like just like it's. I wasn't like bawling or anything like that, but like that hit me so hard. So okay.
So we agree the circus, the Romeos and Juliets thing, for as funny as that is, it's not making it.
It's so messed up.
I love Romeos and Juliets. Romeos and Juliets is a scene where the robots are putting on their production of Romeo and Juliets, except there are multiple Romeos and there are multiple Juliets, and they're just like eventually like they're reciting poetry back to each other, and it like ends with the line of, "To tell the truth, we must beat the shit out of thee," and they fight each other, and it's like an actual like combat sequence of these robots swinging their arms like fucking Bart and Lisa Simpson, and eventually it's just a single Juliet, and they're like, "Romeo, I have killed thee. Now I too must die." And then it explodes itself, and the like main bot who's in charge of the thing is just like, well, I guess that concludes our production.
Yep, that concludes our production of Romeos and Juliets. And it's real bizarre. And it's one of those things that's so great about Nier Automata. It's like it's a side mission. If you don't go down, and it's a side mission that's like a collectathon. It's go around and get these stamps, and if you don't go down one of those, you'll never see that part. And it's definitely worth seeing. The other thing you put on here was the discovering the differences between Route C and Route D. I mean, it's kind of similar to what I was just describing about the Superman thing and Batman thing. Like, they're both. It's interesting to see like go back and check out what happens if you choose 9S or what happens if you pick like the 9A, right? Yeah.
It's
no A2.
A2.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I said 9A earlier, and I was really confused.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. It's cool to go back and see both parts, and both of those endings are super effective.
I think the difference is, I would say, between that and Injustice is that in order to really complete Nier, you have to do both.
Yeah, you do have to do both. Yeah, because you can't see E until you do C and D.
Yeah.
But so yeah,
like, I think that's a really cool moment where you kind of get to play as the other character, and that's neat. But I also think that there's two on here that I think are. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So Route E is the end of the game, and it's basically they play through the credit sequence, and so the Nier, for some reason, and I don't know, it's really bizarre, and it didn't really feel like it belonged, like has a bunch of moments in the game where there's hacking mini games, as well as there are parts where you're flying around in like a air mech thing that are just twin stick shooters for some reason. It's kind of bizarre, and it works really well, and they're fun. But like many games have done, the end credit sequence. Where did Gus go? The end credit sequence is it has you shooting the letters and the names of people. You know,
yeah.
Mario games have done this. Like lots of games have done this, giving you a fun little thing to do during the end credits. But then it's not that you just have to shoot the things and whatever. They're all trying to shoot you and kill you at the same time. So you're in like a crazy bullet hell version of this credit sequence. And you realize, like, oh, like, it's, like, there are actual, like, stakes here. Like, I have, like, if I get hit enough times, I will die, and I have to start over. And there's a couple checkpoints here and there. And then, at some point in the game, it just gets, like, brutal. Like, absolutely brutal.
I don't know if it's possible to actually finish that thing.
I wonder if someone out there does. It seems impossible. It sure seems impossible. And, and damn it, and so it pops up, like, after you do it, and it pops up something, it's like, would you like some help? Or like, no, I want to press on. I forget exactly how they phrase it. And
is it, do you want to call for help?
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep trying?
And damn it, if I didn't like, no, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but damn it, I am going to go and I'm going to freaking do this. I can do this. And I slammed my head against that like 5, 6, 7 times. Like I really was like, I'm gonna do this, and it got to a point where I'm like, okay, this is just ridiculous. Like this is just like, there's no way, like I can get past like the initial like 4 or 5, and then it's just insane. And so it's like, finally, God, I will do that. And then you hit the yes, I would like some help, and then that was very clearly that's what I was supposed to be doing the whole time. And while it's doing that, like messages are popping up on the screen that are like, I know you can do it, I believe in you, like we can finish this, like the things like that. And it's really bizarre, and it's like, okay, like what is that? Like is you know, and then so you do that, you accept the help, and it surrounds you by like 6 other ships, and they all have gamer tags or whatever on them, and all of a sudden you have the firepower of 6 of these. And every time you get hit, one of them sloughs off, and it's replaced by another one. And then at the end of the game, it basically says, like, do you also want to help other people succeed in this? If you do, your game will be erased. You cannot come back from this point. You will not be able to complete any of your side quests or any, because it also, one of the things it does is it tells you that it opens up chapter select, so you can go back and play any chapters and see anything you want to. But it's like, if you do this,
it opened up chapter select, I think, before that.
Before the credits, yeah. I think it's before E. It opens up chapter select, and then when you go forward. So it's like, so it gave you the opportunity to go back and finish up stuff if you want to. But it's like, if you do this, you will not be able to go back. You will be losing your save. And then I had this like realization of like, oh God, like every time I got hit during that sequence,
that was somebody else's save
file. I was killing someone else's save file. And that whole sequence of people coming up, watching the names hit, watching the names disappear as I got hit, and getting through the end was mind blowing to me. And then having that whole sequence, and then they don't just say, okay, your save is erased. Like, you get to leave a message, so those messages that you saw popped up, you get to customize your own message about what you want to say to other people. And then it literally walks you through and has you watch all of the interface elements of all of the menus get deleted one by one. You watch all of your quests get deleted. You watch all of your items get deleted. Like, it's bizarre. And then and then sure enough, it kicks back to the main screen and it just says complete new game, continues not there anymore. And it's just like, oh god, like, it's amazing. Like, it was an amazing moment. Like, unlike anything.
You get the little like flower and the sword in the menu.
Sure. Yeah, it's a slightly different background for the menu, but they 100% stick to what they said, and you cannot go back from that. Like, and which that point, I was fine. I didn't need to. Like, I feel like, sure, I could have gone back and maybe tried to wrap up some side quests. Like, I never did all the like the combat arena stuff that's in there. Like, I didn't finish that stuff up because, you know, whatever. But they really stuck to it. They really did it.
The only thing that I think holds that stuff back is that it doesn't also say, like, hey, your save file, if it's on a cloud, is still there. Like, if you really are gonna be that fucking guy, you can go and restore that shit. Which I think is, like, maybe the only thing that, like, takes away from that moment. Like, I think that the rest of that stuff is really good, but god damn the Pascal thing.
I know.
Like, the Pascal thing is a moment, like there's a lot of moments in that game where you just have to be like, no, I gotta walk away. Like, I have to not be here right now. And that is the moment where I was like, okay, I'm putting the controller down. I'm gonna walk away, and I'm gonna think about some things. So like Pascal.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gus, you need like.
This
is
Pascal,
rough stuff that happens.
So Pascal, the character we've kind of been talking about, and this kind of like leads into the C route as well, and where that game goes really crazy. So Pascal is the kind of like pacifist robot who is trying to teach all these robots the human values and trying to teach them pacifism. The robots are kind of built to be violent creatures, and these are robots who have disconnected from the network. And so he starts leading this group of robots who've been disconnected, and you get these really great like little interactions with the town. The thing that broke my heart really with this scene is that right before this, I did the thing where you build the slide for the children robots.
Yep.
And that fucked me up. That fucked me up real bad. So what essentially happens in Route C is Route C, you learn that there is something going wrong with like all the androids and all the robots, and they're all going super violent, and the robots are like eating each other. It's really fucked up imagery of like these robots like with their faces like almost look like they've just carved them themselves. So they've just got these really sharp pointy teeth, and they're like eating each other. And eventually this shit hits Pascal's village, and you have to like kind of go around and help the remaining robots, and you are able to save a bunch of the children. And eventually you're like, okay, well, we're gonna take them to this dock area that we've got, because there's like a lot of space there, and like we're gonna hide out there, and that's gonna be the thing. We're just gonna save them. And you get them there, and you realize that off in the distance there is this fleet essentially of I don't know what the model of that robot is, but it's the giant robots that are
the Goliath.
Goliaths, yeah. The Goliaths are coming, and there's a lot of them. And Pascal kind of has this moment of like, fuck, I'm a pacifist, but they are gonna kill everybody in this thing if I don't do something. And so Pascal fucking transforms and kills them and annihilates them. And it is like, there's a little bit of a like, yeah, sort of thing of like, yeah, you did it, guy, but also like, hey, your entire thing is that you were this pacifist and you were trying, and god damn it, you tried and you did everything that you could to stop this point from happening. And so, go through and you destroy them, and Pascal's like, thank God, like we were able to stop them. I cannot believe, that I had to go through that, but at least everybody is safe. And you return into the building, and all of the children have killed themselves. Because Pascal also taught them fear. And they essentially feared what was going to happen to them if these robots showed up. And so Pascal realizes that, in trying to teach these robots to be human, he taught them a lot of things, but he also taught them what fear is.
Yeah. But not how to deal with fear.
Yeah, like not how, like, it's a very, like, all of the emotions are very, lack of a better term, like, they're very robotic, right? Like, they're like, oh, well, this is the really nice feeling that you get, but it doesn't associate any meaning with those feelings. It doesn't associate any reason to, like how to deal. There's no coping mechanism. You just have those feelings. And Pascal kind of realizes, like, oh my God, I am responsible for this. This is on me. I fucked up so badly. And you have this moment of Pascal being like, look, I can't deal with this. Like, I need you to either kill me or I need you to erase my memories. And so we both did erase the memories.
Yeah.
Which leads to kind of like some really fucked up scenes.
Yeah, because basically what happens is you come back to the village that he was at before and all the kids were at before, and he's kind of back to his normal self. Like, he doesn't really know. He's like, wow, there's a lot of bodies around here, like a lot of machine parts. I'm not really sure what's going on, but this seems like a pretty nice place. And then he turns into a vendor who is selling weapons made out of the pieces of machines that were basically his dead friends. His dead
friends, his dad's family, and he doesn't realize. So this is the thing that I was bringing up that I think was on, I guess, what would be either the buffer we did or the first episode, I guess, depending on how we cut this. There's like a weapon story if you buy those weapons that is super fucked up. So like if you get it to level 1, it's like, I lack parts. Level 2, I am useless. Level 3, my existence is unnecessary. Level 4, I tried so hard, mommy. Like, that is, oh my God, that is the nihilism that this game has towards itself. Like, it is, it is profound. There is another option, which I think is actually, if they present it as a binary choice, that you either have to destroy him or you have to erase him. Because like when I think I initially like tried to walk away, and he's like, no, you have to do this. You have to do this. I cannot go on if you don't do this. But it's not. If you keep walking away, he just has to live with that. And I think that's a more interesting story than him getting that stuff erased or him getting killed, because his arc is entirely about, and it's a lot of characters' arcs within this game, right? The arc of, I want to be human. I want to know what it means to be human. I want to understand what that meaning is. And Pascal is the closest that gets to it. He's so close. He's just about there. And if he had to learn to live with tragedy, because he says, I can't self-terminate. I can't kill myself. So you have to do it for me, or you have to erase my memories. Forcing him to live with those memories is actually maybe the most profound moment of this game, because it's like, this is what you wanted. This is the humanity that you were really desperate to get and to understand. It's learning to live with pain. It's learning to live with loss. That, man, I really love the ending, the sacrificing your saves. I actually like went back, because I like recorded that whole thing, and I went back and I was like, man, that's a fucking moment. That is a goddamn thing that happens. But Pascal's arc I feel like is, to me, Pascal's arc is the really maybe the most interesting thing, like outside of the whole, hey, what's going on with the humans? What is going on with Yorha? What is all of that stuff? And, you know, eventually the reveal of like what's going on with a 9S and like, oh, you know, 2B is actually an executioner bot. Like that stuff's all great, but the emotional core of that game to me is in Pascal. I think like the sacrificing your save thing is a thing that I was like, man, because I initially was like, nah, I don't really want to help anybody. I'm good. And I think I just like left, and I never made the connection of like, oh, you want me to sacrifice my save? That's what's going on there. Like I didn't make that connection immediately. And so I was like, wait a minute, wait. Oh
Yeah.
shit. So I like literally went back.
It makes
I went
you
back through
agree.
and I'm like, no, I gotta go.
Yeah, it makes you agree like 5 times before it actually does it too. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, are you sure you want to do this? Yes. It's like, you don't even know who might pick this up. It's someone you've never met before. Do you still want to do it?
Hate.
Yeah, it's like, this might be someone you actually hate. Like, do you still? It's like that. Like, I think that's why. Like, the Pascal part is, I mean, it's awesome. There's no way it's not an amazing sequence, amazing moment. Just how sad that was. But the reason that the Route E stuck out some more is just how different it was than anything I've seen in a video game before. Of just like you are literally being assisted by other people, and then you are given the option to do the same thing. And how much they really hammer into it's like you don't have to do this. Like you don't know who's going to do it. You've never met that person before. Like you could, like, all that stuff. And maybe it's I don't know how much is of that is real or whatever. But it worked on me as how just of a unique mechanic it was in the context of that ending.
I think I would have been more impacted by that moment. So I think I had mentioned before, like I say this to anybody, like go watch Super Bunny Hop does a really good video on what's going on with Nier, the original Nier, Nier Gestalt. And he's like, yeah, like at the end, it's just like, hey, you delete your save file. And that's what, and then you get an extra thing. And so like when I realized like, oh, that's what it's, oh, okay. So I kind of knew going into this that there might be a thing like that. I just didn't connect it at the moment.
Yeah.
So like that's why the save thing was like, to me, it was like, it's a great moment. I think it's really played well. But I think the heart and soul of that game is in the Pascal arc and its conclusion. Like I think that the Pascal thing, it's not just that it's like a sad moment, but it's also
it's
sort
about
of
everything that game
of,
is trying to do. Like it's everything
Yeah.
the game is trying to say is kind of reflected in that moment about the machines learning emotions, but not really understanding why the emotions are there and how to respond to those emotions. And then the most human thing that you really can do to him is to make him live with it. Which I didn't get this. I didn't even think of that as an option when I went through that, and it's kind of unfortunate. I'm okay letting this one go. Like, they're both amazing moments.
They are.
I actually knew.
I think there's so many fucking good moments in here, though. It's the thing.
So I will say this. I read this list, and I knew what Route E was going to be before I played it, and it was still just as effective to me. Like, I knew that's how it was going to end. It was going to sacrifice. I didn't know how. I had no idea what exactly it was going to be.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was going to be this crazy bullet hell credits shooting sequence where
it's a super wild scene.
where it's like literally I was gonna get help from other people. Like, I didn't know any of that stuff was gonna happen, and it was still super effective. Especially like those last questions that it asks you when it's like, you might hate, like, this might be person that you actually hate you will help out. And I was just like, man, like that's rough. Like, that's a rough thing to put on someone.
Like I said, I went back and rewatched it, and it is it's an effective moment. Like, especially because like afterwards, So I kind of went like a step further, and I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm just gonna go through with this whole thing, and I'm gonna delete my save off the cloud because I had one from the very ending that was up there. I'm like, I'm gonna delete that because I'm good. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this shit right.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately turned and I just uninstalled it. I was like, yep,
yeah,
that's it. Like, I'm done. Like, I didn't even think about cloud stuff. Maybe my save is still out there in the cloud. I don't know. I don't know.
Did you get the achievement guy? Did you get the achievements or no? Is he not in the PC version? On the PS4 version, there is when you complete Route D, or it might be C, you can go back to the base camp, the first base camp, and just buy all the achievements.
Oh no, yeah. I don't think I did. If he's in there, I was so in it at that point that I just wanted to see it all the way through. I didn't really, I didn't stop and mess around with side quests or anything like that. I wanted to see it all the way through to the end. Right. Okay, so we've narrowed that down. I think it'll go without saying that that's going to end up on this final list.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The next one is Destiny 2. Which there's 3 things on here from Destiny 2. One is crazy because it is, like, not repeatable. Like, that game opens with a really cool recap of the stuff that you did in Destiny 2, the people that you did it with. Like, it really took me back to be like, oh yeah, like, I remember playing through the oh god, the glass. What the
Vault of Glass.
Vault of Glass. Like, yeah, and it was Robbie and it was Paris and it was, and like, I was like, holy crap, like, yeah, I remember doing that, and like, and seeing all that stuff was super effective and super cool of like how they did that and how they went through there. Like, that might be a little bit more specific to me. I don't know if you guys were affected by that nearly as much. Like, that was a really cool moment, and like, I can't go back and see that. Like, that's not anything that I can go back and view that montage again. I think I screen captured all of every page of it on PS4, but
I will say though, for like, I mean, that's a cool moment, but for new players to the franchise or for people who didn't really do that much in Destiny 1,
it's like, hey, remember that one thing you did?
Yeah, it's not very effective.
Remember when you shot
nearly as effective.
Remember you finished those 2 expansions? Yeah. That was actually what my recap was like. It's like, yeah, you did that expansion. You did it real good. Like, yeah, I did it real good. We did it. Yeah, I killed the guy. And it's like, well, we're still loading. So what are you doing now? I guess you're just waiting for this game to finish loading.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was super effective to me, but I kind of got the feeling that was going to be a little specific to me.
Yeah.
The second one here, which is the new tower, I absolutely love that all of the stuff that Bungie put out, all of the things, all of the streams and videos and all the information, and we all went into Destiny 2 thinking that our space was going to be the farm. Like, that was going to be like, hell, they were doing things where it's like, hey, like, the week before the game comes out or whatever it was. No, I guess it was the last week of the beta. It's like, hey, jump in here and check out the farm because this is going to be your new soul. And then, like, nope, that's not, you're never going to go to the farm. Like, there's no reason to ever go to the farm again. The tower's back. The tower's huge. It's beautiful. Like that moment was just like, how did they pull that off? Like, it's amazing that didn't leak, that wasn't talked about, that they actually made the decision to just not talk about it at all. That's really the one that sticks out to me, because as we all know, the raid has its problems. It's really cool, has, like, I still really like some of the moments, but man, the raid has some problems, especially in that Callus fight. And maybe none of them will ultimately make that list, but the one that sticks out of just like moments from that game was that kind of just after you beat the game, after you've done all this stuff, and it's like, oh, we're just going to drop you off in the new tower, and everything's back the way it was.
I guess to me, none of these moments really had a huge impact, just because, like, it's not the same tower.
No,
it's a different tower.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like the same thing. It'd be like, oh man, that's really wild, but as it kind of stands to me, it was just like, oh, this is a second social space. So I didn't, and like I've talked, I don't have that connection to Destiny. So to me, it was very much like, oh, it's another space. Like, that's nice, but also, like, it's weird because occasionally there'll be a thing that'll be like, hey, go talk to so and so, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? And it's like, oh, it's the lady with the Ingrams on the farm. It's like, fucking hop her ass on this ship and get her over here.
I
Get
think
her to the
like,
damn tower.
I think there's only one. I think it's like one exotic quest you have to do that for whatever random reason.
Yeah, that's super weird.
That is super weird. So let me say this about the raid. The first 3 sections of the raid I think are great. Like the bats part, the gauntlet part, and the pleasure gardens, the dogs, I think are all fantastic. They are so unique. They're so different than not necessarily all of them. Like the bats is kind of similar to what you've seen in other stuff in raids, but like the dogs and the gauntlet are so unique and different from anything else that you've ever done in the raids in Destiny. Like it's like that stuff is fantastic. Callus sucks though. Like that's really what it comes down
to. Yeah, the fuck he does.
Like it's buggy. It's a lot of the stuff that I didn't like about some of the raids in Destiny 1 where there's too many ways that you can just instantly wipe if the slightest thing goes wrong. Like hey, like someone hit a slight little bump in the Shadow Realm and went flying, and now they didn't get their Scion. Now everyone's dead. Like you can't come back from stuff like that.
Yeah, it requires so much coordination, not just between players, but between I'm sliding a little bit to the left. That means we're fucked.
Yeah,
like, that is so. And that was my first experience with a raid, and that sucked. Like at that point, like there was a lot of cool shit with that raid. Like, okay, like the gauntlet thing. I think that was like fucking great because it's like, okay, we got to communicate out, then we got to shoot the things, and then the person inside's got to run, and then we all got to run, and that's fucking cool. Like that is a really fun thing. Or the dog thing, like that. It was like
it's a stealth sequence in the game that has no stealth in it at any point in any other part of that game. There's a stealth part, like it's crazy.
And then it's like what? So there's the bass, and then there's a 4th section. Or
well, there's like the flag defense, like the thing you do in between, but that's not really. I mean, that's kind of just standard. Like the cool part is that like. Not a lot of it is like just running around killing guys. Like the bats is kind of that. Like it's similar to stuff that was in that's been in past raids. But like the dog part and the gauntlet part, like killing guys is just kind of like a thing you do while you're waiting for everything else to happen. Like it's not the main thing you were doing. Like you only need to kill those dogs. Like you don't really need to kill anyone except you need to punch a Scion in the face in the gauntlet to move along. Like that's cool that they focused it so much on mechanics. But all that being said, I'm gonna highlight 3 lines, and I'm gonna delete 3 lines.
Nice.
Awesome stuff, but yeah. All right, moving down through this list. There's still a lot of stuff in this list. There's 2 things from Middle-earth: Shadow of War. I talked about Bruiser's arc just a little bit when we were talking about best character. He's really cool, and kind of what happens with him is cool. I think it could have been played out a little bit better. Act 3, however, is the most Lord of the Rings stuff that has ever happened. I should have watched the cinematic again because it's kind of amazing. So I'm gonna go completely off of memory here after I've played that like 2 months ago. But basically, the whole point is you are the ranger. And you have Celebrimbor, your ghost elf, who's with you, who forged. So that whole game is you guys forge a new ring of power. It's a blue ring, so that means it's good. You know, it's not red, that means it's bad. Or I guess that's kind of more of an orange, the actual ring of power. And so you go through all this stuff, you take over all of these things, and you go to finally confront Sauron. And right before that happens, like you're kind of talking with Celebrimbor about what you're gonna do, and Celebrimbor realizes that he's going to basically be a new Sauron when this is done. Like he wants to rule all of Middle Earth, but in a peaceful way, right, guys? Like that's how that works. You can be a peaceful dictator.
Yeah.
And so he realizes that you don't have you're not going to be with him on that. Like you're going to push it back. Like you're not like you're not going to be ruthless, you're not going to be tyrannical. And so there's another elf lady who's been with you, who's done a bunch of quests with you, and basically he steals the ring from you, gives it to her, and possesses her instead, leaving you to die. And then Sauron comes back, you know, because he's been here the whole time, and him and Celebrimbor have this big old fight, and Sauron just murders them both, and then Sauron has both rings. He has the old Ring of Power and the new Ring of Power.
Shit.
And basically what ends up happening then is you have, oh god, what's the guy's name in Shadow? I can't think of his name right now.
Talon?
Yeah, Talon. He's the most generic guy in the world. He's not much of a character. Like, he doesn't have his Ring of Power, and he can't do any of the stuff that he's been able to do, like, you know, commanding the orbs, taking him over, like, all the abilities that Celebrimbor had. Like, he doesn't have the Ring of Power anymore. He can't do any of that stuff. And so he takes one of the Nazgul rings. I don't know how you guys are up to on, like, your Lord of the Rings lore. But the whole point of it is they gave 9 rings to men that corrupted them and turned them into the Nazgul. And you killed one of the Nazgul, and so you take his ring to get your power back, and then they can slightly change your power set so you can, like, raise enemies from the dead and stuff like that. And then you use that to continue your power to try to fight Sauron. And it's just this crazy thing where it's like, oh god, like, you are, like all this stuff happened, like, everything you've been working towards gets, like, smashed down and killed in just, like, over the course of, like, you know, a cinematic where you finally did this whole campaign where you took over all these things, you killed the head of the Nazgul, the Witch King, or whatever he's called, I don't know. And then it all ends up not mattering because Sauron just ends up beating you in the end anyways. He kills Celebrimbor, he takes the new Ring of Power, he has both rings, and you have to basically resort to using this cursed ring to use your power, knowing that it's eventually going to take you over and make you like a Nazgul, make you like, you know, on Sauron's side eventually. You just try to do as much good as you can in the meantime. Like, it's crazy. It's just, like, it's awesome, off-the-wall Lord of the Rings shit, and it's kind of crazy. Unfortunately, it's right after that they go into all the Shadow Wars stuff, yeah, where they could have had this crazy, like, if it ended there, it's like, oh god, like, the Shadow of Mordor 3 is going to be you having all these different powers because you have a different ring, and you have all, like, no, it's just, like, instead of it being blue, your ring is green because it brings people back from the death and stuff, like, I don't know. And then it's like, it's cool, it's a really awesome moment, it's some Lord of the Rings-ass Lord of the Rings stuff. It doesn't hang on this list, and I know it doesn't, but it's definitely, like, it was the best that game got right before the game became the worst that game is, which is unfortunate, but it's a really cool moment before the game goes to complete shit. So we can cut them both off of there, but it's really cool. Next up, we got 4 from Super Mario Odyssey. This one's gonna be tough too, I think.
There's like 2 here that I think are really,
yeah,
that are really up, but
first one is the New Donk City Festival. This is during the middle of the game when you get all the band together, and Paulina sings a song in Mario. There's a whole musical sequence, and Mario is running around in 2D along the sides of buildings doing classic Mario stuff, and you have to fight,
avoiding barrels.
Yeah, you have to fight Donkey Kong again. You have to jump over barrels and beat Donkey Kong, and it's kind of awesome. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of
like the best looking scene, I think, in that game, because it's like that 2D art style, which is here and there throughout the rest of that game, but it's like also very neon-y. It's also like in like Twilight in New Donk City, so you got like, you know, like just like a bit of sunlight in the background coming through, yep. And then
and you got that crazy song going on at the same time,
yeah.
Like the Mario Jumper. I think it's just Jumpman, isn't it?
Jump Up Superstar.
Yeah, is that what it is? I don't know.
Superstar.
It's pretty great.
That thing is so fucking cool. Like that is like a moment where it's like, okay, well, we're gonna have the festival, and you're like, oh, cool. I wonder what this is gonna be. Is it Mario gonna be eating the cake? And it's like we're gonna use this in Metro Kingdom to do the thing that you would have hoped they would have done. Yep. I actually kind of wish they would have gone a little bit further and done like a full 3D Donkey Kong
thing. That would have been cool. So the other part is, I don't know, Bowser, I don't know what to call it, but basically the very, very end of the game is it does the thing that you would want Mario to do. So like, hey, in Super Mario 3D World, at the end of that game, Bowser turns into a freaking cat. He gets the bell just like Mario does and chases you up the side of the building. Mario Odyssey, of course, is about Mario taking over people by throwing his hat at them. So naturally, the end of the game is you throw the hat at Bowser, and you get to control Bowser with a mustache, with Princess Peach alongside you as you bash through all these rocks and escape. And
you're
then
escaping from the moon.
Because the moon is. And then you go into a pipe. And you get to be good old classic Super Mario Brothers Bowser, jumping, shooting the fire breath. Oh my god, the sequence is amazing.
And then it goes even more insane because the end of it is, so you get through the whole thing, and you have to, so like one of the things you can find throughout the game is like these little electrical wires that you kind of connect into, and it kind of zaps you through. So the end of the game is like you reach one and you just find one that's in the middle of the area, and you throw your cap, and it is an electrified version of Bowser? Bowser? What was that fucking voice? Bowser. Mario. Peach. All in electric form. Just kind of like staring like, oh my god, I'm in so much pain. This is terrible. Help me.
And then it launches you.
The fuck off.
Yep, launches you from the moon back to Earth or whatever that is called. And then you get this great sequence at the end where Mario and Peach are about to have their, like, oh, here they are. They're going to, like, hug or kiss or whatever they do. And freaking Bowser's back at it again and tries to... His whole point of the Odyssey is Bowser is trying to marry Peach. And going about it the very wrong way, because kidnapping and whatnot's probably not the best way to go into marriage. But he interjects with his, like, piranha plant bouquet that he's trying to give her. And then Mario pulls up a flower, and they're kind of fighting back and forth. And Peach just goes, no, and just blows both of them off, gets on the Odyssey, and just starts flying off. It's like, I'm not associating with either of you guys, because you guys, it's like, it's the most bizarre, like, you think it's going to be, like, the most cliched ending of, like, oh, Bowser's defeated, Mario and Peach, oh, you know, they give the kiss on the forehead or whatever. And nope, just Peach just blows them both off and walks off, and it's, I mean, they do still kind of end up doing the cliche. They do kind of end up doing the cliche thing where they both try to jump and get onto the Odyssey, and Mario bounces off of Bowser's head and ends up getting on the Odyssey. But it's kind of amazing, and I love it a lot.
It's a really good scene. It's a really good scene.
The other two on here don't really hold a candle to those.
Oh wait, no! Oh no! No, we're gonna be talking about this because that Final Kingdom. No, the fuck it.
Okay. So let's say Deep Woods.
So I don't think the Deep Woods thing, but like, I mean, maybe you can explain why this is on here, because I don't.
Did you go to the Deep Woods? Did you go to the Deep Woods?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
So
I don't think that it's a great moment. But
are you kidding me? You fall off a ledge. You assume that you were going to die, because that's what happens every other time you die in this game. And instead, you land down in a dark forest where a dinosaur, a T-Rex, is running around. Like, it's not one of the
worst part of the game, though, is the other thing. Like, it's not. That's a bad area. It's a bad area.
I'm not saying that particular area is impressive, or whatever. Just that moment of like, oh, I didn't die. Oh, what in the world is this? Oh, there's a T-Rex down here. What the hell? Like, that whole moment's just kind of bizarre. I thought it was cool. I thought it was super cool. So let's talk. So the Final Kingdom. Let me tell you why that didn't work, because the freaking game puts a painting in halfway through that lets you go there and totally spoils that surprise.
So, like, that's kind of intentional, though. So, okay, so the Final Kingdom. So, what happens is, I want to say it's like the Luncheon Kingdom is where the painting is. And you kind of see a painting, and it's like, hey, that looks like Peach's Castle from Mario 64. What's going on
exactly from Mario 64.
The paintings that you find in the game are kind of like portals that will put you into like a small island that is kind of removed from a different area of the game. So it's like this self-contained little thing. So you kind of get like a preview of the game or of the area. And that thing sends you to fucking Yoshi's house. And God damn, that was cool. That was great. Like that whole thing of like, wait a minute, I'm here. Wait a minute, that's okay. This is Yoshi's house. Oh my God, that is the chimney that they show in Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Holy fuck! And then you look over and it's like, oh my God, there it is.
Yeah.
There the fuck it is. So I think maybe it could have worked better if you didn't see that, but I'm also enough of like, holy shit, I have to get here. How do I get here? Let me go. Let me do it. Let me go. I want to go. I want to go there. That is why that thing worked for me, because you were looking at a recreation in Odyssey of Peach's Castle, the outside area from Mario 64.
And everything about that area is fantastic. Like, you get to, like, there's a part where you get to go into the courtyard, and it's straight up the courtyard from Super Mario 64 with the old ass like texture trees and stuff that you go through. Like, you're like, hey, what happens if I get up on the roof? That's where Yoshi was. Oh, yep, there's Yoshi. Holy crap, Yoshi's in this game. Like all that stuff like that. It keeps going and going, and it's super cool.
It's where you get the like 64 outfit, because you get like a old polygonal version of
Mario, wow, man, that is disturbing to see in HD.
It really is. Really is.
It
is kind of fucked up.
It is disturbing.
Like that to me is like, I think the best out of all four. Like, I actually don't think that. To me, the two were the New Donk City thing and the Final Kingdom. Like that, I like the Bowser's thing at the end. I think that's a really insane fucking moment for that game. But the thing about New Donk and about the Final Kingdom thing is that they're playing very heavily on nostalgia that I specifically have for Mario. Sure. Like, I have nostalgia for Donkey Kong. I have nostalgia for, holy shit, I'm in Yoshi's house from Super Mario World. What I would say is probably my favorite of the Mario games.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, that's so fucking cool.
See, and I had that same reaction to the Bowser part, because they did that same thing. You go into 2D as Bowser, and you are straight up Bowser from Super Mario Brothers, and you have the same fire breath, and it kind of controls shitty compared to like actual Mario, and I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that, because I feel like that's how it would actually control if they had made a Bowser game like that. Like, I mean,
Bowser Maker. That's the one they're gonna do next.
Bowser Maker.
Yes.
To me, I mean, so I don't think that was still as effective as the New Donk City Festival. Like, that's the one that always stuck out to me in this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Final Kingdom, like, that reveal would have been amazing if I hadn't gotten that like sneak preview. Like, I think it would have been a little bit more effective. Like, yeah, I love everything about that area. I love that Yoshi's on the roof. I love that all the moons you get in that are just stars, and it plays the Super Mario 64 star sound. And it's kind of bizarre that the game still calls it "You Got a Moon," even though it's like, nope, that's a star. Like,
well, did you hear that? There's a dialogue in that section. I don't know if you got it, but Cappy's like, "Oh, I guess you guys have moons, but they look like stars here." That's weird.
I do think I saw. I think I remember seeing something like that.
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mind that preview. I actually really liked it, because it was like, to me, it was this point of like, I was like, okay, I was kind of getting to this point where I'm like, all right, I kind of just want to get to the end. I kind of just want to see what the ending is.
And then you even more wanted to get to the ending.
Well, yeah, so I was like, wait, how does this happen? How the fuck do I get here? I need to see this thing. That tease to me, like, definitely like made me go, okay, we got to do some shit. Like, there's other fucking great moments in this game too that I don't think we listed on here. Like, there's the whole Dark Souls section of Mario, which is insane. That there's like this whole area in this ruined castle where you have to fight a dragon.
Oh right, yeah.
That is absolutely fucking crazy.
There's the part. I mean, we talked about it. The part where you control meat and you have to attract the bird by literally just controlling meat. Somehow, like why? Like, why am I controlling meat? That's so bizarre. Like, but I mean,
I think the New Donk City Festival though is like, it is it is something like I do love the 64 stuff. I love everything about it. I do love the tease thing. I know a lot of people didn't like that, but I love the tease thing.
Yeah. But I think the New Donk City
New
Festival,
Donks
I think it encapsulates like everything that the game's going for. Like
like it has a tone thing about it that is like very much like we're going to celebrate Mario as a whole. Like it's not just about like, hey, we're gonna make like references or we're gonna do these things. It is all about all of Mario, and it's this great moment mid-game that I think works perfectly. So I would say that's the one that that ends up making it.
Okay. Yeah. That's always the one that stuck out to me. I think we disagree about which one's number 2. But
Yeah, basically. But I mean, hey, this is us getting one, so
yeah, we have to. We have to do this stuff. Gus just left us. I don't know where Gus went.
He left. Do you want to take a quick pause here? I would like to go use the bathroom because we've still got a lot of this to go.
Yeah, we can pause real quick, sure.
Okay. I think that's a good pause point. Let's both leave and not be here when Gus comes back and really confuse the shit out of it.
That sounds good. That sounds real good. I like this idea.
All right. Be back in a minute.
All right, so let's move on. We only have 2 left before we have to start just cutting things purely. So the second game that has a bunch of stuff, the second game, it's Wolfenstein 2. That's why I said second. The one of those games that has multiple things is Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus. That's what it's called. First one we have here is getting that achievement. Now that achievement is the one, I don't even remember what the achievements are called, but basically you get an achievement for kicking and killing Hitler in the game.
And for kicking
and
killing Hitler?
Okay, so
well, you don't have weapons on you, so
here's the context of that. So you kind of hit a point near the end of the game where they're like, okay, well, we gotta try and go get these. I think it's like codes you gotta get right so that you can get into their giant floating fortress. They're like, the only way that we can do that is by getting them from Venus. Because like in Wolfenstein,
yep, Venus, that
Order,
Venus, yep.
They had in New Order they had like a moon base thing.
Yeah.
And so like, well, we got to go back to space, obviously. And so you go to Venus under the guise of you basically knock out this actor who's auditioning for the role of BJ Blazkowicz, because by this point, well, that's all tied into a different thing that happens. But there's a movie coming out about BJ Blazkowicz and how the Nazi army was able to defeat him and how great we are because we're Nazis.
Yeah.
And
go Nazis. No.
So you have to have to be disguised. Look, that's a valid political stance apparently in fucking 2017. But you have to go in and you have to like disguise yourself as an actor, and you are going in to audition for the role of BJ Blazkowicz as BJ Blazkowicz, and the director of said film is one Adolf Hitler, and he is so I guess apparently from what I was reading, there is supposedly some amount of truth to his portrayal, that by the end of his life he was kind of decrepit and insane, but also he's Hitler, so he can just have you fucking killed. So like,
yeah, well, and this is also like this is like the late 60s or something like that, right? Anyways, so like this would be a good while after like the Hitler as when he died in real history, so it would make sense that he's 20 years older and failing health and whatnot.
It's like pissing into buckets and just like, this is what I do, but I can because I'm the fucking Fuhrer. And So at one point, so there's a few things about this scene because like this whole thing is like also tied in with that whole scene. So I don't know if you noticed, Kyle, but there's a young, fresh-faced actor who is there who is kind of sucking up to the Nazis. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Hitler, I'm a big fan of your work, and I really love that book that you wrote." And he's kind of just an ass kisser to the Nazis.
Yeah.
Do you know who that is?
No.
So they don't explicitly say what his name is, but you hear him in the background at one point. He's like, they're like asking like, "Well, what's your name?" And the guy's like, "Well, whatever his name is." And the other guys, they don't say his last name. They go, "Yeah, my name is Ronnie." And eventually,
Ronnie
there's
Reagan.
kind of a scene. There's a scene where you see the back of all of these actors' chairs. They have all of their names on them, and there's sort of a coat draped over his, but the last three letters that you see are GAN.
Oh gosh, I did not notice that.
Yep. Ronnie Reagan, being a little Hitler sympathizer, which, yeah, that's why I said, like, this game has got some things to say about politics. Like,
Yeah.
that Pete Hines interview is such bullshit because they do have things that they want to say about politics.
And he takes the first. He gets shot immediately. Because he doesn't take the Fuhrer seriously and calls him Mr. Hitler instead of Mein
Mr.
Fuhrer.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Oh God,
they have a whole scene though where it's like you have to like where he's like trying to memorize lines, and you have to like get the lines right. I don't know what happens if you don't get the lines right, but you can like kind of like just start insulting them through these lines, and so it kind of culminates with you being like, they're like, "Oh, we want you to go in and we want you to see how tough you are against a real Nazi." And like the first guy he goes up there, he's like, he kind of like gives him like a tap, and he's like, "Oh, my wrist is broken," and they shoot him. And then they're like, why don't you go up and see how you fare? Just go into that cell there and fight the Nazis." And like meanwhile, like Hitler is just kind of like laying there on the ground. So my instinctual reaction is, of course, I'm going to go up and I'm going to melee kill Hitler. Of course, that's the first thing I'm going to do. And he field goal kicks fucking Hitler's head. It is, and the game like immediately gave me the achievement. Like, it's like, we know what you want to do. We got you.
Nice.
That entire sequence is phenomenal. It's, I think, maybe in the second position for this game, but that entire sequence is so, and it's obviously setting up Mecha Hitler being in the third game.
Yeah, because he's so weak, and like there's no way that he doesn't like have some kind of crazy robot body thing that you'll have to then destroy.
Well, if we're talking about robot bodies in Wolfenstein 2, let's talk about Roswell and all of the shit that happens immediately after Roswell.
You know, okay, I didn't stop you. You know what's crazy is when you hear like, "Oh yeah, the stuff with Roswell, like that's pretty crazy in Wolfenstein," and you're like, "Oh, like is it gonna be like aliens and shit? Like what is it gonna be?" Nope, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you're in Roswell, New Mexico. It's nothing to do. It's everything that happens after you leave Roswell, New Mexico.
Especially kind of hints at like, yeah, there's definitely aliens under there, and there was a part of me that's like, yo, are we getting Nazi aliens? Because that would be fucking funny as shit. And no, it goes so crazy in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you maybe want to set this one up.
Sure,
but,
yeah. So it starts off with a sequence where BJ goes back to his home in Mesquite, Texas. Yeah, this is exactly.
That's random.
And I don't know, that's where he's from.
It's because that's where the id Tech headquarters
are.
Okay.
I don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why.
I knew they were in Texas. I didn't know where. So whatever. He goes back and he goes through. He has like a bunch of flashbacks about when he was a little kid, all the shitty stuff that his dad has done. We've talked about that. And then he goes into like the last room of the house, and there's his dad. And you're like, oh, this is like a flashback or like, nope, his dad's actually there. He knew that he would come back there at some point, and he called
specifically because in the last thing that happened, you set off a nuke in
Oh,
Roswell.
right, you set up a nuke in Roswell, and so he knew, like, he would probably come back to his house because he was so close already being in New Mexico. And then, of course, he calls the Nazis, so they're giant flying... So you kill your father, obviously, because, I mean, how would you not kill your father?
He goes through, like, an entire rant, also. I think, like, that rant, we talked about it, but that rant is very much him going, like, yeah, of course I sold out to the Nazis because I needed a bigger farm. Like, it's white complacency, it's white people going, like, yeah, I'm really good off, but I need to be better off, and the only way that I'm going to be better off is if I fuck over these Jewish people.
Yeah, which in this instance was his wife, which is super messed up.
Yep.
So then the giant Nazi fortress flying thing comes and picks up the house, and it's like, it kind of reminded me of the sequence in Titanfall 2 where you're running, because you're basically running around to this house that is sideways, you're kind of running on the walls, everything's kind of falling apart and breaking. Like, it kind of reminded me of that sequence a little bit. And that doesn't end well for you, end up getting captured. God, that's just it's so much, the whole sequence.
That's the whole thing. It's a solid few hours, but it's non-stop.
Yeah.
The thing.
So then while you're captured, one of the people that you've met that's part of the resistance comes in pretending to be a lawyer, and he's going to break you out, and he has this whole plan. They're all like the teams down in like the parking garage, and they're going to break you out, and he's going to be the one to get you out of there first. That backfires because they were all totally in on it, and you watch this guy get shot in the back of the head right in front of you, and you're strapped down, so you can't do anything about it. Then you get to witness BJ being sentenced to death in this giant, like, terrifying, like, Nazi courtroom thing. Then it goes into a whole hallucination. Yeah, it is.
The court thing is insane because you have this moment of they're like, well, we're gonna talk down and we're gonna explain why you did such a bad thing, and then he like is able to break out of his chains. You have an extended gun sequence, which I think is one of those gatekeeping points of that game.
Yeah, that was a tough sequence.
You should lower the difficulty because you're in this very open space. You have to fight off waves and waves and waves of Nazis. You never know when it's going to end. You're always looking for ammo. And then it ends, and you walk into the judge's chambers, and your mother is there. And that's when you realize that this whole sequence was a dream.
Yeah.
And so he is still totally in front of this court being sentenced to death. That's where it gets insane.
Yeah. So then at that point, you fast forward a little bit, and they are in the National Mall, right in front of the what's the
Washington Monument.
Well, yeah, but where are they at? What's the steps there on the other side of the
Lincoln Memorial?
Yeah, the Lincoln Memorial. Which
they replaced it with Hitler.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they replaced it with Hitler. They have you there set up. You got Engel, which is the big bad lady from the first game and the main villain of the second game, with a giant saber, and they are going to execute you in front of thousands of people and broadcast on live TV, and they fucking do it. They chop your head off. And then so she picks up your head, your head's just mangled, and she drops it down into like this incinerator far below. And I literally thought, like, oh god, they really are doing this. They are killing BJ Blazkowicz. Like, how? Like, who am I going to take over Anya? Like, who am I going to be playing for the rest of the game?
The thinking that I had was that it was going to be the kid. Like, it was going to be because, like, at that point she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, are we going to just John Marston the rest of this fucking game? Like, that's crazy.
That would have been crazy too. Like, one of these days, like, besides John Marston, I would like another game to actually go full force and actually kill off the main character midway through. But that ends up not being what happened. So as you see the head falling down into the incinerator, it stops, and then you see a rewind thing come up, and you see it come back up. And then it does this whole sequence where a little flying drone grabs your decapitated head, swaps it out for a dummy head, flies back in, puts it on, and they go through a whole series of
the resistance
medical
is, like,
mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
And they take your head and they put it on a robot Nazi body thing. No, not a robot body per se.
They start by putting you into a glass jar.
Well,
they
sure.
put your head into a Futurama glass jar.
Yeah, well, sure, of
and
course.
they go, hey, we just found this tech, and like your new body that we've built you, it can really only handle like one of these things. So you don't have vocal cords either, so just kind of like tilt your head towards the one that you want, and we'll add that to your body. And at that point, like, it's already fucking insane because you're just sitting there as a jar in a head in a jar. And then, like, they finally go through and they reattach your head. And they're like, yep, you're back.
Yep, you're back.
And it's like at that point is when you actually are able to do, because up to that point you could only do, was it 50 health?
50 health, but 200 armor, because you had this, basically the end of the first game, your legs are crippled, and so you can't actually walk. And so this game, like, they put you in this bodysuit armor thing that lets you walk, but then you lose that when you get captured, obviously. And so, yeah, now you have a new body, and now you're back to 100, just like classic Wolfenstein, and then you have this extra ability, whichever one ability that you picked. That's honestly not used a ton in that game. At least I picked the ramming shoulder one. Like, you can kind of see, like, it's kind of just like, hey, which way you're going to progress through this level. But the whole sequence just goes from, all right, you set a nuke off. All right, you go back to your house. Oh, there's your dad. Oh, yeah, you got to kill your dad. Oh, now the house got picked up by this thing. Oh, you got captured. That sucks. Oh, you got executed. Nope, you escaped. No, you didn't. Now you're really getting executed. Like, it's... God, it just keeps going. It's a
sequence of everly increasing insane events that is... Like, we have other ones on this list we will talk about, but that's the one.
Yeah,
like,
that is the one. Yeah.
Like, that is a... It is going so hard in its, like, nonstop for, like I said, a solid few hours. Like, this just goes on. It's never a thing where there's a clear dividing point. The Jimmy Carver thing, I think, is really... it's a fun moment. It's the end of the game. You basically... Nobody realizes that BJ is alive. They all think he's dead.
Yeah.
And so you break into this interview that Frau Engel is having where she's like, yeah, well, we showed him the Nazi power. I felt so good when I killed BJ. And then you murder her on national television.
Yep.
And there's a really great scene where... So in my game, I chose Wyatt, the second one. Because I was like, I saw that stuff from E3, and I was like, I wonder what that looks like. And it actually turns out like that story arc of Wyatt is really interesting, where he's just like this young leader who's kind of forced into this position, and he's like, I'm not ready for this. And so he starts really heavily doing drugs. And it's kind of like a nice culmination for Wyatt of like, yeah, I am actually going to be in this leadership position of this resistance. And he gives like this very like sort of rah-rah America speech. Did you... Who's the other...
I picked Fergus. Yeah, I picked the Scottish guy or whatever. He doesn't have that... I don't want to say he has that interesting of a storyline all through that. He kind of... So his thing is he loses his arm during the course of that game. I'm assuming that doesn't happen to Wyatt then?
No.
Yeah, so he loses an arm, and his entire struggle of that game is Set gives him this, like, robotic Dasher arm that kind of has a mind of its own, and so his whole arc is about getting this arm to behave because it won't listen to him. And, like, his arm, like, flips people off, like, he goes and has this moment where he's gonna... ask a girl out that he really wants to be like some French girl, and he like has this whole speech prepared, and he gives it, and he's like, I've been wanting to do this ever since I laid eyes on you, and then the arm just reaches up and grabs her boob, and she slaps him obviously, and he's just like, no, that's not. He's like, he's like, you arm, come on, arm, like, come on. So his thing in the
that sounds like a kind of bad. It sounds like a bad story.
It's really bad. It doesn't like. It's interesting that the Wyatt stuff is interesting because I'd actually thought they kind of ruined Fergus in this game because I thought he was actually really interesting in the first game.
Because like Fergus, like the difference with like Fergus and Wyatt in the first one really is Jay, because like if you want Jay, you got to go with Wyatt. And Fergus kind of like gets this like really interesting story of like, yeah, I'm an old guy. You should have just let me die in that case. I was ready to die for this cause. That kid wasn't. And so like I had heard a little bit of that stuff, and it kind of sounds like it's a bad arc for him. Whereas I feel like
they don't really do much with him. But
like Wyatt is very much the non-canon choice because everybody I feel like everybody played as Fergus because like obviously I want a guy who knows his shit in this resistance.
Yeah, versus a kid who's like screaming and afraid. But so in the Jimmy Carver, so the whole Jimmy Carver after you very viciously murdered Engel on national television with an axe right up close. Like all the resistant members are kind of giving like a big old rah rah America, we're gonna fight back, we're gonna take the streets, grab a brick, grab a bat, use your fists, whatever, like fight the power, blah blah blah, and then. Like, after all that, and then it kind of goes away to credits, and then it comes back, and it's Fergus, and he just kind of, like, he's very clearly drunk, it seems like, and, like, BJ's just in the back, just kind of sitting there, just kind of looking around, like, he's kind of bored, and Fergus is ranting about, like, for a free Scotland and stuff, like, which is funny, because it's on American television, no one would care, and it's like, okay, that's actually kind of funny. But, yeah, unfortunately, they didn't do a ton with Fergus in Wolfenstein 2.
It also is really unfortunate that Wolfenstein 2 does have the worst endgame credit music of all time. Like that's really the ultimate takeaway. It's a really fucking bad cover of that song.
Yeah,
it's
a really bad.
Oh man.
Yeah, bad cover of "We're Not Gonna Take It." It's really bad. It's
which is not even a good song to begin with, and it's a bad.
I mean, it's for like the message of like that makes sense for Wolfenstein, but it's like a hard rock cover of "We're Not Gonna Take It," and it's bad. It's really bad. So reclaiming the U-boat doesn't really register with me. Is that like, are you talking about like the very beginning of the game, or what? Or are you talking about?
It's when you're going through and you find that the Nazis are holed up through the entire U-boat.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
In a wheelchair, and you have to go around killing Nazis in a wheelchair. That's a really cool.
Oh, the wheelchair part. Okay, yeah, that part's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like that thing is I think like from a gameplay perspective, like really awesome. It is interesting to have to play as like this big super meat man that has to use a wheelchair. Like that's a really cool thing, but I think it has to be the Roswell.
Yeah, it's definitely the Roswell. Like it's nothing else besides the Roswell. So we'll go ahead and cut that down on here. The last one, Adam's going to be all you, because you got 3 from Assassin's Creed on here.
Yeah.
And as we were just talking about,
I think yeah, it'll be a tough thing considering that I'm the only person here who's played it. But let's go into it. So, Assassin's Creed Origin, it is you trying to reveal the members of this sort of order, basically a Templar, a first version of the Templar, and you kind of realize at a certain point, like, hey, there's a lot more of these guys than what we were thinking there were, and one of them is the Scarab, and all of the missions are based around, you kind of get like this wall of faces. They're all faceless. They all have these masks on, and the Scarab, you go to a town that is being terrorized by this guy. You realize that, like, hey, there's this guy who he supposedly had some contact with the Scarab, and he supposedly knows exactly who the Scarab is, but he was captured by the Scarab. And you get him, and you find, like, his tongue has been cut out. And so, like, that guy's son-in-law is like, look, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you figure this shit out because, like, this guy's terrorizing our town. Like, we don't know what the fuck is going on with him. And so you eventually start going and you start doing these missions with the guy, and you start like killing him, and he's like, man, that's really cool that you're here helping us. I appreciate it. Come back to my home, come with my family. We're going to have a big dinner. It's going to be great. And Bayek gets drugged at that point, and you wake up in the middle of the desert, buried up to your neck in sand, and Bayek is having hallucinations while this happens, and you have to eventually dig yourself out, and you realize that the son-in-law, this guy who you spent like maybe 4 or 5 missions with, is totally the guy that you've been hunting this entire time. It is really a cool thing, and eventually you kind of realize like, oh yeah, that old guy totally knew who he was, but he wasn't going to say anything because it would endanger his family. It's a really good moment, like when you kind of realize like, holy shit, this guy's been like right here, right next to me this entire time. It could be anybody with the rest of these. A lot of those reveal missions are really cool, but the Scarab one was phenomenal, I think, compared with the rest of them. The Pompeii mission, it is the Black Flag mission of this game, the first Black Flag mission of this game. So this is the Black Flag team that made this game. So there are naval combat missions, and you play as Bayek's wife, whose name is escaping me at the moment. But you have to like go through, and it's basically, you know, a Black Flag mission, but with slightly less tech, which is, it's sort of like the tower thing, where it's like not something that I expected, but it's nice that it's there. You know, like that was kind of a thing for me of like, oh man, I totally had no idea that there was going to be any naval combat stuff
Right, yeah.
in this game whatsoever, and it's really cool that it's there. Odormost Foul, which is the last one on here, I think actually embodies their attitude towards Egypt, and it's something that I have a lot of respect for. So if you don't know, also, they are going to go back in the start of the new year, and they're going to make a mode that removes all combat, it removes all enemies, it removes all storyline, and it's basically going to be a museum mode. So that you can go around to these different areas, and they'll have like here like little interactive lessons with the shit. And that's really cool. Like that's a really cool tool to put into a game that has as much detail about Egypt as this game does. Odormost Foul is a mission. It's a side mission, and it is you get this like little notification that's like, these priests are complaining about a stink that's coming from the place. Better go investigate it. And you think it's gonna be like this like dumbass like fart joke sort of thing, and what it ends up being is you go into a tomb, and you realize like, holy shit, like these bodies are decaying in a bad way, in a way that they're not supposed to. These mummified bodies are decaying in a way that they're not supposed to. They're being defiled. What's going on with that? And you have to go through a series of meeting with different people involved in the embalming and mummification process. And like, yeah, this is what I do. I come and I take out the liver, and like, I don't know why this shit would be happening. And eventually you kind of realize that like, oh, this is the guy who packs the bodies with the embalming fluid, and he's like being sort of coerced into to doing like to sort of cutting the mixture with this specific chemical so that they can keep some of the profits. And you eventually go and you confront the guy, and you know, it kind of just ends like you would expect it to. The thing that I respect about this mission though is that it's so easy for games to have a really romanticized view of Egypt. It's sort of I would almost say like an anglicized version of Egypt, where it's like this very white man's view of how these people lived, and they believed in mummies. Isn't that really crazy? The entire mission takes the idea of like mummification and respect for the dead and their bodies and the duat and all of this stuff like very seriously, in a way that not a lot of games do, where they're like, yeah, like of course we don't want these bodies defiled because that means that they can't go on to the afterlife. That is something that not many games do. Like they don't respect that. I always think of like the the Brendan Fraser mummy movies, right? Where they have this like, oh, isn't it so wacky that they believe this stuff? They're made of magic. And like, this is like, it's very humble. It's very like, man, like we respect the dead. We respect these people, and we want to make sure that they pass on to the other side. And we have to do that in a respectful way. And if you don't respect that, I'm going to fuck you up, because you are desecrating the dead and you are preventing their passage onto the next world. It's a fucking fascinating mission, and I think that it embodies the stuff that I really love about Assassin's Creed Origins, because for a few years, like I took like a lot of interest in like studying Egypt, like in high school, and it's like, man, this is so respectful in a way that I always feel like they go, we are a multicultural team and we respect everybody's history and blah 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 blah. But you never really see that in action in the way that Origins does.
Yeah.
You always get like, oh, there's magic shit, I guess. Like here it's like, yeah, we're taking this stuff seriously. We're treating this stuff as the Egyptians would, which is that it's real, even if it's maybe not real within the context of the story and their ancient alien stuff that happens in that game. There's definitely like a moment where they're like, yeah, you got to go here, and this person's sacrificing people to the giant visions in the tomb, and it's actually ancient aliens. And so like to see them kind of take that stuff in a very somber tone and like, yeah, this is actually a multicultural thing. That's just cool. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't hold on this list. Like none of those, I think, moments hold on
That's
this
what I was
list.
going to ask, yeah.
All right.
Because I think like it's a really cool and like actually, like I said, very respectful thing. But there's some other stuff on here that I think is maybe had more of an impact on me this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on this list. Okay.
Let's start running through stuff that we think can get cut out.
Yeah.
And I guess I will start with the Mr. Shifty thing, the machine. In that it is the end game. So that game is like a game where you can kind of like you bamf between areas, and it is a moment where you like have to bamf inside of this machine and blow it up from the inside while at the same point fight guys on the outside. It's a really cool culmination to that game, but I don't think that it stays on this list.
No, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this list, and we got to get it down to 5. So we're definitely gonna have to make some cuts about stuff. I mean, there's gonna be a couple classes of stuff. Let's see here. I'm looking down a little bit for Breaking the Glass and Prey. So I didn't get very far into Prey, but the thing I remember about that game is you're in that original world and you break through the glass of your apartment, and oh yeah, you're not in an apartment, you're in like a lab studio. Like it's so bizarre and so unexpected about the way that game was going. But it's the same thing. It just doesn't hang on this list.
Yeah. I think we said that if it's stuff that we haven't played, it doesn't make the list. So I think in a very technical sense, First Contact from Elite Dangerous has to get cut off of this list. Although I think it is actually maybe the coolest thing in this game, or on this list.
Because of how just low-key they did it. Like...
Yeah, like they had this spacefaring game, and you go through it, and then eventually somebody's like, hey, I have this video of my ship just shutting itself down, and then the I think it's like the Thargods, or the Thargods, I don't remember exactly how that's pronounced, but the Thargods, they're attacking these ships that were attacking me, and all of a sudden, holy shit, this is actually the First Contact moment where Elite Dangerous players are encountering aliens.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's a super cool thing, and to do it like so low key, it's. I heard people talking about the Predator DLC that they added into Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Yeah.
where they shouldn't have actually said anything. They shouldn't have said that they added it in by announcing it. They kind of ruined it. I kind of feel like a similar thing, like this Elite Dangerous First Contact thing is a very similar deal where it's like, yeah, they didn't say anything. They just did it. And
yeah, they just put it in and let people find it. Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
Super cool. I see the one that sticks out to me is something that I know I'm the only one who played, which is the twist in Death Squared. And I think I've told you about this, Adam, because it's very bizarre twist. So basically, the entirety of Death Squared is it's a puzzle game. You have these little box robots that you're moving around, and you need to solve puzzles. It's a co-op game. And so you go through and you do all these puzzles or whatever, and then slowly there's a guy who's talking to an AI the entire time. And he's putting these robots through their puzzles, and eventually at the end of the game, he's the guy has learned to like these little robots, and so rather than kill them, which is what he's supposed to do, he sets them free. And then as the credits are going, all these newspaper headlines are going by, and basically by releasing the robots, he actually ended up causing the death of all humanity, because the robots start off just kind of being simple, they started a comedy duo or something. I forget exactly what it was. And then it's robots release other robots, blah. And then it's robots are taking, and then it's by the end of it, it's just all humanity is dead. And it's the last human dies, all hail robots. It's just so bizarre. It's such a lighthearted, just simple puzzle game to just be oh yeah, so this guy just did this thing that he thought, these robots are probably smarter than we let on. We should not kill them. We should let them free. And then they just end up killing all humanity. It's so bizarre and random, but it's kind of great.
Does that mean we gotta get rid of the Devolver Digital E3 press conference?
We probably should. It's not. It's. I know. Adam.
Play it.
It's not. It's a gaming thing, but it's
a gaming moment.
It's more of just a bizarre. I don't even know how to describe it.
Anything that you didn't. We were talking about the Devolver thing beforehand because we're what are they going to show? And I'm well, they got some good games, so I think they should be fine with it.
I guess they could show some stuff.
But then you watch it and it's no, it's not going to be any of those.
They just wanted to mess with people. Is all that they were going for. But I'm not particularly attached to it. I think I would rather honor actual games, not just someone's bizarre Coke infused nightmare of people getting limbs chopped off and stuff. God, something so bizarre.
I think I'm the only person who has an attachment with it, which I think is, I think more than just playing it, I think the attachment part of it is Danganronpa V3. So Danganronpa V3, they had a trailer and a demo that came out. They had a lot of media where they're here's your new character. It's a girl. We finally have a girl character as main character, and you're oh, that's fucking cool. That's really interesting thing to do there, and that's interesting. That's an interesting way to go with that. Well, hey, much respect to you. And the first case, so Danganronpa, it is a thing where these students get locked in this school, and they are basically forced into playing a killing game where they have to kill a student, and if they are able to succeed in getting away with murder, and not being found out, sort of getting away with it, they're able to escape the building, and they're able to go free into the world. Well, what is the world, really? And so eventually, you start playing the game, and it's oh, okay, you kind of realize, oh, the person who's behind this is probably this one guy, so we should, set up a trap to, get camera footage of this guy. And if we do that, then we were definitely going to be able to stop this thing from happening. And you go through the whole setup of it, and it's okay, well, we're going to set up this camera in this room, and because we know that the guy is going to go into this room at a specific time, so we're going to set up a camera. We're going to get photographic evidence of it, and then we can stop this whole thing. And eventually, it turns out this person is not the guy. It's just somebody who is going in there, and the person gets killed. And you go through the whole trial setup of going through it, and it's oh, how did they die? Well, they died through this way. And about halfway through, your character is going through the evidence. She's okay, yeah, that makes sense, don't you think? And she kind of looks over at one of the characters. She's don't you think that makes sense? Don't you really think that that makes sense? You don't think that there's anything wrong with this, do you? And and the guy's like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, you don't think that there's anything going on with this that maybe you're not getting, correct? And it turns out that, like, yeah, the girl that you were playing as is actually the killer in this case. And she did it to sort of embolden the team, as it were, to actually solve the mystery of this, because she was convinced that the person was actually going to be the guy who's responsible for it. And so she set up a death trap for him. And there's like always these like little clues that you get while you're like going through the game. She's like, oh, well, she bent down at this one area to pick this thing up. And then like it kind of replays the scene, and it's like, oh, and while she was bending down, she like released this one thing. So you kind of get like a Rube Goldberg trap almost. And so like it's a really good twist. It's interesting. I think like flipping the switch on that game as early as it is, especially given the marketing for it, is really cool. That game goes really wild at the end as well, where it turns out that the rest of the games, including this one, were actually all part of a TV series, which is a really yeah, it's a really insane thing, and I still don't know how I feel about it, because it's actually specifically V3. It's not 3. It's V3 for 5-3. It's the 53rd season of Danganronpa.
Jesus.
And it's like there's like actually a point near the end where they're like, oh, here's like all of the seasons. There's like Shin Danganronpa, and like it's like Danganronpa goes Hawaiian. it's like kind of funny, but I also feel like, oh, you guys kind of set up a whole thing through the rest of these games, and you're just like, nah, fuck it.
Just retconning everything.
Like, I respect that. I respect that you're willing to be like, nah, fuck it. We're going to end it here. Because it's impossible to come back after that. Like, you can't really unfuck that. But, like, also you guys have got, like, TV shows that now don't make any fucking sense at all. Wait, what? But the first case I think is, like, actually the most impactful one of them, because it's, like, very much training you not to expect anything from this game. And I think it's cool, but that a lot of that also comes from my attachment with Danganronpa as a series. So I think it gets cut.
Okay. So let me tell you about the spittoons in West of Loathing. So here's what I pulled up. It's gonna be not quite the same, because I'm not exactly an actor. I pulled up a picture of one of the interactions that you have with a spittoon. So here we go. It goes, a spittoon. At least it looks like a spittoon, but it's next to a bed. It might actually be a bedpan. It doesn't have the contextual, but you would probably say something like, reach into the spittoon. It's, what, really? I mean, if it's just a spittoon, that's bad enough, but it might be a bedpan, and that would be way worse. Then you continue. I feel like maybe you're not getting what I'm saying. We're talking about an object that someone probably uses when they wake up in the middle of the night and can't be bothered to walk to the outhouse. At the best you can hope for is maybe they only use it to spit nighttime tobacco juice into, in which case it's only full of rancid, congealing tobacco spit. We continue. Are you even listening to me? Or are you just sort of skimming past the text? Bedpan. And then the final thing is, look, I'm pretty sure there's treasure in there and you're not stopping me. That's the option that you have. And every single spittoon has an exchange like that with the game, where the game tries to actively stop you from reaching your hand into the spittoon. And every time you're just like, nah, I'm doing it. And the very last one, I don't have the text in front of me, the very last one you run into, the game is just like, look it, I know you're gonna do it. You know you're gonna do it. I know you're gonna do it. Let's do it. It's like, let's get all up in there. Like, let's smell it. Let's taste it. Let's see really how, like, the game gets so wrong with the spittoons. It's so I mean, it's not gonna hang on this list. There's a ton of other stuff that is much more meaningful, but it's like an example of just how funny some of the stuff it is, and that's like that stuff, like where it goes with each of those spittoons. And there's like 7 or 8 of them in the game. They're kind of scattered throughout the game. They're hilarious. They're a hilarious sequence of the game. But we can take it off, unfortunately.
Little Nightmares, the Final Feast. Man, that game goes places at the end. So, the whole game is like your character has been essentially captured as like food for basically the rich. It's this like rich, sort of deformed characters. It almost reminds me of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Some of the animation stuff with that, where they're like very fat and hunched over, or they've got very exaggerated deformities. And so like at the end of that game is you reaching like basically the person who's sort of responsible for it, and it's a psychic ghost lady, and you kill her and take her power, and at the end of it you just like there's this entire extended sequence where you're like running through the dining hall trying to avoid getting captured, and there's like mounds of these like piles of fat just in flesh that are just like kind of pouring over each other trying to get you to eat you. And the end of the game is you just walking through that main hall and fucking psychically murdering all of them.
Oh god, that sounds awesome.
It's really good. It's man, I did include like a link here on it, but it is it reminds me a lot of that sort of power moment from Inside, where like you become the blob at the end of that game, and you kind of like go through and you take out all the guys, but there's like no attempt at a morality lesson at the end of it. It's just you fucking killing these guys and walking out. It's like a cool culmination to that game, but I don't think it hangs with a lot of the rest of this stuff.
I need to check that out, I think. I'll take the. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the taking down the Thunderjaw, that's like the giant T-Rex dinosaur in Horizon Zero Dawn, and that like I don't know if you guys got to a point where you fought that thing. Like that was by far like the most interesting and awesome fight I had ever ran into in that game. It's so cool. Like you have to do like it's basically. I had to throw like every last little thing I had at it to take it down. It was interesting. It was complex. You had to like try to focus, take out certain things. Like by the time I got to like the end of it, like I had knocked off like all of his like special powers. So like really all he could do was try to run and attack me manually. Like he couldn't shoot me or anything like that. Problem with that is that like that happened. And then like the very next thing I went and did that game was like one of those like, hey, go into this camp and shoot all these guys. And it immediately was like, God, this other part of the game is just so not good. And it kind of made me stop playing the game because of how good the one sequence was compared to how bad the other stuff in that game was. So it's an amazing sequence, but it's the same thing. I don't know if it really hangs on this list. I definitely other things I'm much more excited about on this list.
Yeah. It's one of those moments that after you take it down, though, it's one of those where you're gonna take some pictures of yourself next to the code.
I definitely took some pictures of myself next to it, doing some kind of funny pose or something like that. I love that they let you do that in picture mode. That they let you change the pose or the look on her face. Like it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah. My list is not loading. So I can see. There it is. So the Vectron thing is a really fucking cool moment in SteamWorld Dig 2, but it's a similar deal that I feel like with the Final Feast in Little Nightmares. Is it's like a really cool standout moment, but it maybe doesn't like I think in maybe a lesser year it would definitely stand out. So the entire game of SteamWorld Dig 2 is you play as I forget what her name is, but she's basically looking for Rusty, who's the character from the first game, and you kind of get this partner who is a wisp, sort of an electronic ghost, if you will, and eventually you're like, oh man, like we think that we know where he is. We think we're in the corpse of the Vectron, which was the final boss area of SteamWorld Dig 1, and the Wisp guy is like, he's like, I'm not going in there. You're gonna do that shit yourself because I know what's in there, and I will never fucking go in there. they're like, come on, we just got to go in here to save Russ. He's like, no, fuck that. I didn't sign up for this. And you're like, okay, well, what could be so bad? So for like a solid 20 minutes, that game turns into a survival horror game, which is really crazy. So you go in, the Vectron is like destroyed, and you see like these shells of machines, and you see like they're kind of just like hollowed out carcasses. You see like all this technology is kind of broken, and then you wind up with a moment where you see another wisp in this thing, and there is there's like a monitor, and it just like goes into the monitor and it makes it explode. And you're like, okay, it's making these things are making shit explode. That's really weird. And like all the while, like you have no access to your inventory. The like lights are kind of weird. And then eventually you find one of these wisps that's by one of the corpses of these giant fucking robots. And it just goes into it. And it possesses it. And then it chases you. And it's a thing you cannot kill. So you have to like then run the fuck away from it. And eventually it reaches a point where there's just a hallway that is all of the bricks that you can kind of like pick through. And there's a ton of wisps. And there are a ton of these robots. And so what it ends up being is you have to kind of like pick your way through specifically so that you don't aggro the wisps. Because if you aggro one of them, you're basically going to aggro them all. And then you're going to have to run away from all of these things. It's like the standout moment of that game. It is creepy and unexpected. You know, like I played through SteamWorld Dig 1. I didn't do much of SteamWorld Heist. But this entire section of this game is so unlike anything else in the game, and weird and like creepy and just really well designed. Like it's definitely the standout moment from that game. But sort of in the same vein as like the ending of Little Nightmares. Like I think that's a great moment on a really well built game, but there are these other things on this list that I feel way more strongly about. So I would say cut it.
Yeah, I would say that same thing about the thing from Tekken 7. Like, it's a really awesome moment, and it's
such a good moment.
And it probably
this year's press F to pay respects.
Yeah, and it probably affected you. Like, I don't really have much affiliation with Tekken 7, so I'm sure it affected you more than it affected me. But even still, it's just like, oh, you're actually making me hit these buttons. Okay. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Like it's like the thing with Tekken 7 is like you have to like fight you're the kid and you have to fight Heihachi, and you're like, okay, I can do it, and then he's like gives you a kick and you lose like a third of your health, and then like he just beats your ass so bad, and then it's like, all right, it's like the cutscene of him holding because I don't remember, is it Kazuma?
Something like that.
But he's like holding him above the volcano, and you're like, yo, that kid's going in that fucking volcano. And yeah, that kid ends up in that volcano. It's a cool moment, but it's also like it's the best moment of that story mode also is the thing. And I don't know that it's a great moment on its own as somebody who really loves Tekken. When it's good. That moment was like a fucking total nerd out moment for me of like, oh my god, he did it at the tournament.
Yeah, they're really showing it.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting down here. Outlast, everything, and Sonic Mania.
So the Outlast thing, I think, man, the Outlast thing is kind of the culmination of a lot of the stuff that I was talking about with their switching perspectives.
Sure.
So it's like during basically what is supposedly the apocalypse of this world that this cult has been preaching about, and what ends up happening is you are getting chased by these cults while it's raining blood. And
from
then,
a lacerated sky? Okay, sorry.
so then, like, but as you're running, you're doing these incredibly quick cuts between this world and the hallucination world, and they are like almost imperceptible. So it's like this it's a lot of Outlast 2 compared to like Outlast 1. Like Outlast 1 had a lot of hiding stuff. There's a lot of chase sequences in 2. There's a lot of stuff that you are running the fuck away from, and you better hope that you get past it. So like you end up with these weird psychic hallucinations of you going into this school, and you're trying to figure out what's going on there, while at the same point trying to manage your running away. So like it's just very quick cuts, and that is something that I can't think of a game that has done something quite like that really quick scene change consistently. It's a really cool sequence, and it's something that I wish games played more with. Like I really like non-Euclidean like geometry, and I love that in games. You know, I love like you go into a corner, and then you go to 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 a corner, and it's like all this continuous like loop that games can do.
Sure, yeah.
And not a lot of people, not a lot of places, you know, games take advantage of that. I think like Outlast 2 is like the best example of that stuff. Again, though, I feel stronger about at least 5 or 6 other ones on this list, and
it's a really good list. I mean, it's a really good list.
It's a really good list.
I love the moment in Sonic Mania where you roll up to the final boss of the chemical plant zone, and you're just playing Mean Bean Machine. Just playing me, and it's like, no, this doesn't belong in this. I mean, it does belong in this game, but it's amazing. But it's just like, I can't believe they did that. Like, it's so bizarre.
It's very much their Sonic fandom showing.
Yeah,
there.
It's
like,
it's a super fanboy thing, and it's great. But as you know, as far as a 2D platforming fanboy moment, there's one from Super Mario Odyssey that does that even better. Because they do it and they elaborate on it.
I think the difference is that like Sonic. Well, I think like Sonic hasn't had a chance to do something like this before.
Sure,
with its 2D moments, which is like why I really love that scene. Like
other than recreating Green Hill Zone every single game ever.
Yeah, every single fucking time they have to do Green Hill Zone, but like it's never quite like this. You know what I mean? Like there's a very big difference between it, but yeah, I would probably cut it. I would cut also the Golden Gate stuff. The Golden Gate stuff I think is actually maybe the coolest moment in that game. So, you know, everything is like this game where you're possessing these objects and you're kind of ascending into space, and eventually you will like loop beyond space to the point where you're in like hyperspace, and then it turns out that you're actually a molecule within another universe, and it kind of keeps going like that. Or you can descend in the same way. And eventually, like maybe 3 hours into the game, they're still kind of tutorializing stuff to you, and they're like, okay, there's this golden thing over there, and it's called the Golden Gate. It's like a weird shape thing, and they're like, you should go possess that and see what happens. And you do. And you descend into a world that is a mixture of all of the items within this universe. So it'll be like, hey, there's a quasar, and then there's a giant chair, or there's a taxi cab, or there's a blade of grass, or there's a coin, and it's like this whole mystery of figuring out how the fuck do I get out of here, because you can't just ascend up a level. You kind of have to figure out this way to get out of it. That's a really like cool thing in a game that is mostly just like, yeah, just chill out, just have a good time. It's a really weird like gameplay moment for that. It's kind of one of the few moments where it's like, okay, you kind of actually have to play this game. If they had maybe more stuff like that in this game, that might have been cool. But as a as like a standalone thing of like, here's the one thing that you're gonna have to do gameplay wise. I think that it's great, but I would cut it. And fuck.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple. I mean, so there's a couple that we haven't talked about yet, but we have 9 here, and we need to cut 4.
Jesus.
Okay. So let's start. Let's start talking about ones that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
Majima's introduction in Yakuza 0 is everything that is great about that game. It is like
it's bombastic. It's
so it's the first time they introduced the second character in the game, because up to that point you've been Kiryu, and he comes out and it's like, oh, he's the manager. You're like, you think he's just going to be this like complete total badass guy, and there's a rowdy bar patron, and he's gonna be badass, and he's just gonna beat him up, and he's gonna kick him out, and it totally swerves, and he is like the most over the top, apologetic, super nice, oh, the customer's always right, like bowing to him, all this stuff. But then and the guy is totally the unruly customer is totally taken back, but then he uses that like bowing unapologetic to passively disarm and knock this guy out, basically. Well, not knock him out per se, but
he's being overly like apologetic to the point of like this guy is getting belligerent because of how apologetic he's getting.
Yeah, he's being too nice, far too nice.
You're too nice of a guy. You're too nice of a guy. We got to take you down a peg. And so like eventually the guy's just like, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. Like that's what's about to happen here. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And it's like, look, as manager, I can't beat you up. You're a customer. Like you are my customer, so I have to not do anything to harm you. You must always be protected. And so what then happens is this guy like tries to take a swing at him, and he just essentially like does the kung fu dodging, right? Of like, I'm going to avoid getting hit completely. And it gets to the point where he's like dodging so that the guy does self-harm. So, you know, like it's this whole extended sequence of like the music's playing and he's like just swerving out of it. And it's a really great thing. And it's the perfect way to introduce that character. Yeah. Because he's like, I don't want to cause problems because I have this job, because I can't be a Yakuza anymore. They won't let me be Yakuza. So I gotta not be violent. I gotta become a Yakuza again. It's a strong introduction to that guy.
Yeah. That's tough.
But does it stay?
So I think like to me the one maybe that sticks out at this point is the happy birthday stuff. I think the happy birthday stuff is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It is like from a gameplay perspective, from a character building perspective, it is awesome. Like I think it does exactly what it needs to build up Lucas. There are definitely 5 other things on this list that I feel way more strongly about.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, it has some really cool parts of what you have to do to kind of escape the like Saw type trap that he's concocted, but yeah, there's better stuff on here.
And then I would also, for as much as I think it is incredible, the twist stuff of Doki Doki Literature Club does end up getting, like I said, it does kind of get ruined because of the content warnings. That's like the one thing. So you always know like something's going to happen. You don't know how far it's going to go.
Yeah.
Which is super important to that whole thing. But I don't feel as strongly about that. Like that game, the game is definitely on my game of the year list for that stuff. But I know that is just me at this point who has done that. And I think that is an incredibly tough sell unless you've actually done it. Like unless you've actually been in it and experienced it. So I would cut that as well. Which then brings us down to
7.
2, 3, 4,
We have to cut 2
7.
more. Man.
I think
One that stands out to me of this is honestly probably Eventide Island. Like,
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
like that sequence, and it is, and like you said, it's like it perfectly like captures like the gameplay of that game from start to finish, of going from nothing to getting all this stuff, having to use the weapons, having to focus on the environment. But it's not, it doesn't have as much like lasting effect or as like the other stuff that's on this list.
It's definitely the moment. It's definitely the thing that I think about with Breath of the Wild. When I think about like how that game can be really crazy.
Yeah.
But I think like as in terms of like a lasting impact, I don't think that makes it. And then I'm gonna say it. We just hyped it up, but I also don't think that Majima's introduction ends up being the best.
Yeah,
Majima.
yeah.
I mean, Majima is a great fucking character, but he is so much better than that introduction. Like leads on. It's a great introduction to that character.
Yeah, there's other stuff that happens in there, but they're much more spread out and smaller moments. Like that is kind of like the moment that I was all in on that game. Like I'd like through that sequence, which is pretty early in the game. I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm like, yeah, Yakuza, like I'm on board. Like let's totally do this. I see where you're going. So what we haven't talked about in this list is getting the chicken dinner. Which there's not a whole lot to describe about getting the chicken dinner. Adam and I got the chicken dinner. There's video of it out there if you want to see us get the chicken dinner.
It's linked it's linked in this document right here. We were definitely like at a point like we can't talk about this. It doesn't make the list if we didn't do it.
Yeah.
So there was definitely a thing of like, man, we better fucking get a chicken dinner before the end of this year. And god damn it, we did it.
Yeah, we did it, and we did it together. It would have been real awkward if like we got to the end of the year and you had a chicken dinner and I didn't. I would be real salty.
Like, oh, this is awkward. This is a little bit awkward, but we did it together. We Thelma and Louise off that cliff. I was the bait in that case.
Yeah, you were totally the bait. Yeah. But
then you fucking came in and killed that motherfucker, and it was great.
It was great.
I really wish that they had kill cams at that point, because I would have loved to have like gotten, because he died pretty quickly after I got knocked out. So I would have loved to have had like, or just some access to see that ending.
Well, I mean, I wish that all the problems we were having, that I wish I had been recording it from my perspective as well, because I was, but then we had the whole thing of I got dropped, my computer. That was a whole thing.
That is such a crazy story. So we talked a little bit about it, but like the story of us getting that chicken dinner is so crazy. It starts with us. We're gonna record a thing for Fortnite because the Battle Royale mode comes out. We all have Fortnite. We all have access to it. And Gus is like, yeah, I can't make it. Like, I'm not going to make it. And so we ended up doing, like, I think maybe 2 matches in that.
Something like that, yeah.
And then I think we were both like, you know, we got access to PUBG. Like, we could just fucking play PUBG.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said something along the lines of, like, why are we playing this if we could just go play Battlegrounds? Like, it feels like we should just be playing Battlegrounds if we're going to be playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
And then, and whatever. And we played a couple duo matches of Battlegrounds. And we get to this particular one, which was a fog map.
The end of the night. It was the last one. It was the one I'm like, if we don't get it here, I'm done for the night. And then the insanity happens with that chicken dinner because your computer... No, that's what it was. It was the weekend that the fog update was rolling out. And I was like, we got to go try to get us a smoky chicken dinner.
Yep.
And you're like, yeah, you know what? We haven't had a match that has had fog in it. Let's make us get a fog match.
Yeah, let's do one more, and hopefully we'll get fog. And then we got fog, and then while we were doing that, like, you know, doing our thing, whatever. Like, we're in a car driving to our next point, whatever that is. My computer dies.
You were driving.
I was driving. Yes, I was driving. My computer crashes. My computer just completely crashes. It's a thing that's happened from time to time. I think of a memory leak or I don't know, something. I got some memory problems, I think. And I'm like, oh god. And so I turn my computer back on as fast as I can. I log back in, try to get back in. I think it doesn't work that time. I'm back on Discord, so at least I'm talking to you at this point. I close out, I pull it back up again. Somehow that car managed to kind of come to a stop in a relatively safe place.
In front of the docks. Yeah, in front of the dockyard. Because what happened was, on my end, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh, we're slowing down. Oh, are we gonna go explore something, buddy? What are we gonna do here? And like, there's nothing. There's no sound. Hey, buddy, what's the plan here? What are we gonna do? Nothing. No sound. I like alt tab out. I'm like, he's not on Discord. Fuck, did his computer shut down? And so thankfully it didn't like kick you out of the game. It just kept you in. And so we just kept rolling straight. And we just slowed down, and eventually we got this like really nice gentle bump into a chain link fence in front of the dockyard. And I'm like, fuck, if anybody shows up, we are so screwed at this point. So I like have to like defend our car and you in the car. And then that's at that point I think you were able to get back in. But man, that then after that, and I would say maybe because of that, because the point that we were going to, like, I don't think it was in the circle, or it wasn't in the circle when you finally came back in.
But it was right next to it.
Yeah. There was like some gun battles going on over to our left, and we just see like, Kyle, there's like 2 other people left. We just have to survive against 2 people. And you're like, I know. I know. And then we wound up in the final circle. Like that entire sequence was so tense because the final circle was on the other side of like a metal railing. And there's no vaulting at this point also. Like we have to jump over it. So if that guy is over there, he is absolutely going to see us. There's no way that he doesn't see us.
Yeah, and I think at that point there might have still been 2. I think it might have been 2 other people left when we were trying to get over that railing, if I remember right.
Yeah.
You had just killed someone who was trying to creep up on us prior to that.
Which was so funny because you're like, because like I was behind a tree at one point and you were thinking I was still behind that tree. I had moved back because I saw this motherfucker coming. You're like, get out of there. Get out of there. What are you doing? Get out of there. I'm like, I got this. And I'm like, he's dead. Like, oh shit. Okay. Fuck. If we die here, this is gonna break my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't. And
yeah,
I got knocked out, and you were able to get a beat on the guy, and he went the fuck down. It was beautiful.
It was all over, and we got chicken dinner.
I mean, that's like a solid 25 hours worth of getting to that point of playing that game to get a win.
Yep, to get just a win. Yep, and yeah, man, we put in the work to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one we haven't talked about at all, other than just a little bit in passing, is the cannery, which is, as we were saying, is by far the most memorable thing from What Remains of Edith Finch. Mm-hmm. And basically, it's a sequence again. It's about the going through these diaries about people that died. This one happens to be a letter written by a psychiatrist of one of the guys. Is it Lewis? If I remember right, is the guy's name? I think.
It's been months since I've played this game, so
I did fairly recently, and I still remember. So basically, Lewis he works at a cannery where his job is to chop the heads off of salmon. That's what he does. And so it starts off, and you're reading this letter from the psychiatrist, and she's kind of describing Lewis and his problems of like of just kind of not really fitting in with people, things like that. And while he's doing it, you're moving the mouse in a pattern. You grab a fish, you move it over, you have its head chopped off, you throw it down a chute, and you just kind of keep doing that motion over and over and over again through the entire sequence. But then it starts to talk about, the psychiatrist starts talking about how the guy, Lewis, started to kind of to escape, like, just not really feeling part of everything that was going on, starts to imagine things. And so while you're doing this moving fish motion with the mouse, all of a sudden you get control with WASD of a guy in a little maze, and he's just a little guy. He's holding the torch, and so you're moving the guy around, and you're going through this maze, and you have to kind of go through various different things. And at the same time, you're doing all these fish motions. You can kind of already see where it's starting to go at this point. And then she talks about how his imagination started to grow even more, and all of a sudden it switches to like from a top-down like 2D thing to kind of like an isometric 3D guy walking around similar spaces, and it just keeps escalating from there, and you're still doing the fish chopping motion during the entire thing, and eventually gets to the point where you are moving around a person in a full 3D world, and you
while that screen is also getting bigger and taking up more of the world. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like it starts off that like the fish portion of what he's looking at is the majority of the screen. By the end of it, that stuff's almost completely gone, or is completely gone. I think
it is completely gone at the end of it. Yeah.
And the whole thing is he gets so captured by his imagination, and the art design is fabulous. There's a part where you are moving a boat along these channels, and like the story of what his imagination is changes based on which channel you take it down. And then it's like, oh, then he fought a sea serpent and went to the island of the sirens, or whatever it is. He was able to find
his prince, and he was able to get control of the kingdom, and then you end up in the kingdom. And then at that point, is it like just fully 3D?
It's fully 3D. Yeah. It's kind of like a low budget over the shoulder 3D perspective. But before you get to that though, it's you go back at the cannery, and you're kind of in like a kind of like a hyper realistic version of it, where you're at your station, but you walk up this path into the light, surrounded by headless dead fish, up this conveyor belt, and then you're fully in the 3D world, and you go up, and you are going to get crowned as the supreme ruler of this entire area, and you put your head down to let them lay the crown on your head, except it's actually a guillotine, and then it's over.
He put his head inside of the fish chopping, head fish chopping machine, and fuck, like that entire sequence is so just well built.
Yes,
like it's not just that it's like a not a walking simulator thing in this game, because there's a lot of moments where it's very different than traditional walking simulators. This is like a weird gameplay implementation of a psychological hallucination, while at the same point trying to maintain some grip on reality, because you feel that you have to be responsible and you have to do this monotonous job. But the monotonous job is not. So, like, man, that whole thing just goes, and it keeps going, and it is like by and far and away like the most memorable part of that game, in a game that quite frankly has like a lot of really good parts to it. That sequence to me is like where I go like, yeah, this game is definitely the best one of these, because I can't think of, and I've said this with a few other things, I can't think of another game that's done something like that in the past at all. Fuck, it's really good.
It's unlike anything I've ever played. Like just the thing of it. Oh, you are like you're doing like one very specific motion over and over again with one part, but then you're controlling this other like 3D world at the same time. Like it's really cool. Like it's great. Definitely belongs on this list.
What's our winner?
I don't know what our winner is.
Man, I don't know. So, like, there's definitely part of me that's like the chicken dinner thing is, like, definitely a moment that I'm proud to have accomplished.
Yeah.
There's the cannery thing, which I think is unlike anything else that we've had on this list. There's the whole New Mexico, the Roswell shit, everything from Roswell on, which is the most insane that I think I've ever seen a big budget shooter be. The like New Donk City Festival is like this entire tribute to everything like Donkey Kong.
Like, yeah, that's just like a complete joy. And then then you have the stuff with Nier, like just like some of the most heartbreaking stuff that's ever been in games, and then talking about just like the nature of humanity and whatnot. I don't know. I almost think for our list, for what we did and what we had to go through, I kind of think it should be the chicken dinner.
Yeah. I agree. Like we've talked up a lot about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds in this list. There's a reason why. Like there's a very distinct reason why. Getting that chicken dinner is something that I know that I've accomplished. Like, I've not done a solo one. Who knows when that's gonna happen? I was able to get it in a duo with the guy that I started fucking playing this game with in a duo. I don't think I've ever felt as accomplished. Like I fucking did it. Because it's not just that we got a chicken dinner or that we won a multiplayer game. It's that we survived, which is a weird way to talk about a game. But like the fact that you're like, I lived, bitch. Like it's that in video game form of like, we were able to do it when 98 others, or in our case, I don't remember how many people were playing in our duo game. I want to say that there's maybe like 87 total or something like that. We were able to do it above all of those other people. And given our circumstances to get to that point, given how everything that could have probably went wrong did, how we might not have even played that game that night, and who knows when we would have gotten it if we didn't that night.
Yeah, if Gus had shown up. If Gus had to I don't know, whatever was going on.
Thank you, Gus, for not playing Fortnite for like so many reasons.
You're probably better off not playing Fortnite anyways. But I think that's got to be it. Like there's a lot of just memorable stuff on this list, but for us, like our experience getting the chicken dinner is very unique. Because look at it. I mean, hell. Every time a match of that starts, someone gets a chicken dinner out there somewhere. Matches are happening all the time. But man, did we go through the ringer to get that chicken dinner with the computer drops and stuff like damn it, we earned it.
Winner, getting the chicken dinner.
Yep. So that's it. Yeah, best gaming moment or sequence was getting the chicken dinner. Getting the chicken dinner in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. The runners
Not only did we survive the chicken dinner, but we survived this list, you guys.
This list, we got through it. I knew that would be tough to get down to 5. I think we got a really good 5, though. So the runners-up are Pascal's Moment of Tragedy in Nier Automata, The Cannery in What Remains of Edith Finch, the New Donk City Festival in Super Mario Odyssey, and everything after Roswell to going back to the U-boat in Wolfenstein 2. That's going to do it for this episode, you guys. Man, that was something. We might have to put this into 2. I don't know. It got really long. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching along if you were watching along at home. I'm Kyle. That's Adam. That's Gus. And we will see you next time.